Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Market Open. We're live, and I can actually say good morning, and I can put a little bit of emphasis on the good part because it might actually become a good morning. It might actually become a good morning if you were up a little bit earlier, like at around 2:45 a.m. Eastern Standard. It was not that good of a morning, and you were bracing yourself for a very ugly morning. And it's still not the most green morning, but my goodness, at 2 to 3 a.m. Eastern, it was bad, bro. It was bad. And if you were awake, you understood. Honestly, if you were awake even a couple hours ago and saw your portfolio, you understood. You got a peek of what happened. If you're just waking up, just getting into it, you just got your coffee, you didn't even check your portfolio, then you might not have even dealt with the volatility of what happened over the past couple hours. But at 2:40 a.m., 3 a.m., don't ask me why I was awake. I don't even know why I was awake. But you just start getting notifications. Notifications across the board. Tons and tons and tons of notifications. And these notifications are coming from your brokerage. In this case, it was coming from Robinhood. And Robinhood was saying, this is down 5%, this is down 5%, this is down 3%, this is down 10%, this is down 4%. And, I put out at 2:46 a.m., if you are awake, don't look at your portfolio. And I genuinely meant it. Like, I wasn't even joking. I was like, dude, just don't look at it. Like you will be happier if you don't look at it. And I don't know why it was happening. I mean, we're talking about like Friday last week, 3% drawdown type of sell-off at 2 a.m. with zero reason other than maybe the regional bank volatility that we'll talk about more that happened yesterday. Maybe like, I don't know, October general volatility, maybe options expiring, but it was 2 a.m. Like, you couldn't even give it a reason. Everything was just dumping. And 10 minutes ago, literally 10 minutes ago, the S&P 500, as you can see right here, is now flat on the day. It's 19 cents from going green. Why? Because Trump had an interview. I don't even know where he had this interview, but we have the quotes of the interview. We don't have the footage yet. And Trump basically, I mean, he might be on Air Force One, to be honest. And you have reporters basically posting what he said. He basically said, yeah, don't worry about the tariffs on China. I'm not actually going to do it. I didn't even take out my toothpaste in the bathroom. I woke up and I was like, man, today is just going to be a rough day. You're down a lot of money. I go to the bathroom. I have my phone with me. I'm opening up the toothpaste, and then everything reverses. And it's just massive green candles across the board. Yes, he said that this morning. And as a result, that is what's created a lot of this rally. So here are the quotes from what he says. These are the quotes we have, but I don't have the footage on this yet. So Trump says on China tariffs, we have to find a fair deal. We're going to do fine with China. 100% tariff is not sustainable. That was the big one that really got the market to be excited and said, oh, he's not going to do this tariff thing. And then on China tariffs, it's not sustainable. On China trade, I don't know what's going to happen. China's always looking for an edge. We'll see what happens. And I'm meeting with Xi in 2 weeks. These also aren't the most bullish comments. I mean, he's leaving a lot of uncertainty, right? He's not saying like, yeah, for sure, China, everything's going to be great. He's like trying to sugarcoat it and say, we'll be fine. We'll figure something out, which is good to hear, but it's not like definitively the most bullish thing in the world, but it's enough to get the market to be like, okay, good. We don't have to worry that much anymore. I mean, dude, this is crazy, bro. This is absolutely crazy. Like, this is absolutely freaking crazy. I know I'm turning 28 in 10 days, but I feel like I've aged 10 years in the past, like 10 hours. Like, this is just wild, bro. Like, when I mean at 2:40 a.m., everything collapsed. It was bad. And if you were sleeping, then thankfully you didn't have to see it. But if you're international, then, it probably wasn't 2 a.m. for you. It was probably morning. And so you did see it. S&P 500 right there going green. And the weird thing is no one had a reason, right? So it was just like, are we going to have a Black Friday or something? Like, why is this happening? And I guess the reason was China. I guess the market was so upset about China that they needed Trump to just say something positive about China in the morning to fix everything. But I don't know, dude. This is quite incredible. This is quite freaking. It was one of those dips in the pre-market where you didn't even want to buy the dip. You were just like, I can't touch this until I know what's happening. Like, why are we down? And you had no reason. Tesla right there about to break even. Palantir still down 0.5%. Robinhood got to 124, folks. And by the way, let me just say this right here. I don't think we're out of the woods. I genuinely don't know what's going to happen at 9:30. I mean, this thing could be a head fake. It could reverse. We could go right back to, like, I have no idea what could happen going into the market open, but at least we're not going into the market open with the type of shit we had 5 hours ago, because that was just ugly. I mean, again, Hood was, trying to potentially break the 120s. Meta was at 690. I mean, like, a lot of that stuff reversing. Ethereum got to 3,500. Now it's at 37. Bitcoin still ugly, though. Bitcoin got to 103. I mean, it bounced from 103 at 105. Cool, it's at 105, but this thing was at 126 2 weeks ago. So Bitcoin has completely lost a lot of its momentum. And by the way, whenever Trump made these comments about China, the price of gold, as you can see on that red candle right there, took a hit. We're still above 4,300. We were pushing 4,400 before Trump made these China comments. We were at 4,380, as you can see right there. And then Trump made these comments, and that helped it kind of go down. Yeah, at least our covered calls are printing. That's but outside of that, it was ugly, dude. Mass algos, maybe it was mass algos. I have no idea, dude. Honestly, last night I just couldn't sleep. Like, it wasn't even like I was up checking my portfolio. I just genuinely, you know what I think happened yesterday? I played basketball for the first time in a couple of years. When I went downstairs to the gym, and instead of doing my regular workout, I saw people playing basketball in the apartment building. And I've been here for a month, and I've never seen people playing basketball. So I immediately went to the basketball court, and I was like, yeah, you guys play basketball? They're like, yeah, every Thursday at 8 p.m. I was like, oh, perfect. So I played basketball. We won the first game. We got our asses handed to us on the second game. We couldn't score a single point. And so I think I had a ton of energy after playing basketball for the first time in 4 years, and I just couldn't fall asleep. And then while I can't fall asleep, I'm getting these notifications, and it's disgusting. Fear and greed, by the way, we are in extreme fear. 660 on the S&P, 673 was the all-time high, and somehow 660 is extreme fear. To give a little context, we were in extreme fear back in April when the S&P 500 was at 5,000. And we were 20% away from all-time highs. We are less than 3% away from all-time highs, and we are somehow in extreme fear, which is kind of crazy. But yeah, it's been a wild morning. It has been an absolutely wild morning. To be fair, extreme and being barely down is bullish. No, yes. I mean, look, the fear and greed index is one of the most non-academic ways to judge if you should buy the dip or not buy the dip. It's just like literally a fear and greed index, but it has worked. Like, if you overlay it on the S&P 500, it legit is accurate with when you buy the S&P versus when you should sell the S&P. So it's worked historically. And the fact that we're only 3% away from all-time highs and we're at extreme fear, I think is super bullish. It's quite phenomenal to even believe that that's happening. But it goes to show the resilience of the market. It goes to show the market's belief in rate cuts. It goes to show the market's belief in earnings potential, which we've already seen, good earnings across the board. And now it's just a question of, if this market ends up continuing to get back to those all-time highs. It's a simple but effective metric. That is correct. That is correct. You were just talking about being afraid to look at your portfolio last night. That is extreme fear. Yeah, that's fair. Well, the thing is, we've had such a good 2-month run with August and September. And so, my cousin was texting me last night, and she was like, dude, I'm down the most I've been down ever. And I was like, the one thing I can tell you is, like, maybe all the gains you've seen in the past couple months, and this is to myself as well and to everybody here, might not have been as real. And I think we all kind of knew it to an extent, right? It's not normal to have the types of August and September, particularly August and September. It's like, forget a 2-month rally. An August and September 2-month rally is not normal because those months historically are weak. For us to ignore all of that and just push through and keep making all-time highs, again, it's not easy. And so one could argue that maybe those gains weren't even justified in the first place to be able to keep them. But now that we got them, no one wants to lose them. And so it does become extreme fear in what is historically the most volatile month of the year, which is October, when you do lose them. And, now it's just a question of, hey, do we have to lose them or can we keep them up? So we got to see. We got to see how this ends up playing out. But nonetheless, it has been a pretty wild morning. No, I slept at like 3:30 or something. So I ended up sleeping like 40 minutes after looking at the portfolio, but still, it was ugly. It was ugly. All right, so that's what we got right here. Let's talk about some of the other headlines. Hope everyone is still doing okay. Again, 9:30. I don't know what's going to happen. I feel like it's going to be... How much did you put up? I scored 2 points in the first game. I scored 0 in the second game. I had a nice 3-pointer in the first game, though, but the 3-pointer counts as 2 points. But then, dude, the second game, we just got shemacked, like destroyed. And then I came back and I did a live stream with Steve, and I stayed up with Steve basically till like 12 a.m. And then I just couldn't fall asleep. And then we see the portfolios go down. No way, Amit is good, bro. They used to call me Ricky Rubio. They used to call me Ricky Rubio on the streets, bro. I'm not good at basketball anymore, but when I was in my prime, when I was in high school, and I was like playing at my local park, like I used to put up 30. I'm not even saying that to like, I legit used to put up 30, bro. The Euro step is my favorite. I learned it from Ginobili, but all right. Anyway, so that's what we got in the context of Trump and China. Let's get into some of the stuff that happened yesterday with these regional banks. So yesterday, another reason we had actually, before we do let's do regional banks. The reason the regional bank stuff was such a big issue is because two companies reported, KeyBank and Zions Bank, and basically they both said we have some bad credit. And as a result of having some bad credit, this is the reason the S&P 500 went red yesterday intraday at 1 p.m. Because basically Zions and Western Alliance said, we might not know if the credit quality that we have been putting out is the best. Now, they kind of hedged their bets by saying, look, some of the credit issues we're having are one-off events, and they're based on like these legal fraud cases that we're dealing with. So it's not necessarily the worst thing in the world, but the market didn't care. The market was like, oh, a credit problem? Bet. We're selling everything. A credit problem? We are selling everything. And so, I mean, I guess another reason at 2 a.m. the markets got scared is because maybe there were some fears of this credit stuff, and that created also some pain. Chris was on yesterday for Macro Thursday. We talked about the credit issues, and he was like, dude, this feels very isolated because JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, Bank of America, Morgan Stanley, all these guys were like, credit is fine. In fact, they said credit delinquency rates are coming in lower than expected. So the idea that the balance sheets are horrible for these banks, the idea that their underwriting is horrible, I mean, it really does feel isolated to a couple banks. Reminds me of Silicon Valley Bank collapse in 2023. People thought there was a bank contagion that would spread to like the JP Morgans of the world. JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs, Bank of America, they become too big literally to fail. Could they fail? Yes, but I mean, they become too big to fail. So the regional banks could fail, and I don't think anyone would really notice. Those big banks would consume them, and things would go on. This is exactly what happened in March of 2023. So it was kind of weird that the market got so upset yesterday, but it also made sense because any level of credit problems in the country, that could cause a bank run, that could cause a bunch of different things. But I don't think that was the reason we sold off at 2 a.m. It might have contributed to some of the perception. It's hard to imagine that that's a structural reason that could create as much pain as it did. But that was one of the issues that we had. Yeah, TFC had their earnings this morning. So 3Q provision for credit losses, 436 versus 484. That's way better than expected. Fifth Third credit for provision losses, 197 versus 239. Again, way better than expected. And then RF, 105 versus 129. So you had a bunch of regional banks this morning report their earnings, and their provision for credit losses was way better than expected, which is also another reason to not be that afraid of the regional banks. You can see right there, TFC is up in the pre-markets. And again, regional banks are banks that are in a certain region of the country, and they're not like the Citibanks or the Wells Fargos of the world, but they serve a demographic that is specific to their location. And the reason for that is because if you're a local laundromat in Georgia, you're not going to go to JP Morgan to get a loan. You're going to go to your local bank. And these local banks, Truist is actually it's the 7th largest bank in the country, but it is a regional bank. So if the big banks are not showing these credit issues, why are the little banks having massive credit issues? Well, maybe they're not. Maybe it's isolated to a couple instances. And that's why I think the regional banking thesis, if that's the thing that tanks us in 2025, regional banks, if that's really the thing that A, would be a surprise. B, it just feels not that believable because the big banks would show some cracks before the regional banks show these massive, dire structural warnings that everyone has to run for the hills for. And as a result, hopefully it's not that big of a deal. Also, SoFi, a lot of questions came yesterday on is SoFi going to be affected? SoFi fell to 25.50 in the pre-market. SoFi right there, 26.31. I think the answer is no, because SoFi's credit underwriting is phenomenal. And so I really wouldn't be worried about SoFi. Tanner did a video yesterday on SoFi, and he said that he has some data he's looking at that says SoFi is going to have their first 1 million member quarter this quarter in Q3, which would be quite incredible. And SoFi is really restrictive with loans. They're not going to give you a loan just because they want to increase their loan sheet. So I do think that SoFi is going to be okay. I don't think this regional stuff is as endemic as some people may think. We got an update right here on Bessent and what he's going to be doing with China today. So let's get that update, and then we'll keep going from there.
Joe, I can report to you exclusively today that Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and Chinese Vice Premier He Lifeng are going to speak by phone to discuss the ongoing trade negotiations between the United States and China. I don't have any other details here on the timing of this phone call today, the content of it, or what the next steps will be. But the fact that they are going to have this phone conversation is notable because earlier in the week, the Treasury Secretary declined to say specifically at his press conference that he would be speaking to his Chinese counterpart. He said that the Chinese are in town for the IMF gatherings, that there are certain dialogues going back and forth, but he didn't say specifically that he and He Lifeng would be speaking. Now we can report to you that they will be speaking on the phone today. And the question is, whether that represents some kind of a breakthrough in this flare-up of tensions that we've seen over the past week, or at least maybe a platform where some kind of a breakthrough could happen, guys. So that's what we've got.
Eamon, it's the market.
Okay, I mean, not bad. So this is also probably calming down the markets. Bessent and the Chinese vice premier will be talking today based on those comments. And again, China, I forgot to mention this. China yesterday, after the market opened, they put out a statement with their foreign ministry. And they said that decoupling from the United States would be irrational or not realistic. So it's not like China is trying to just like separate from the US. They know that their economy cannot survive without us. And so this is why this feels so stupid. It's like if the market's going down from China and the US, when we know that China and the US is inevitable, that relationship will have to work out at some point, then this is all a buy the dip opportunity, unless there's another reason that's more structural for why the market's taking a hit. And quite frankly, I think its valuations have just run up a lot. These rare earth stocks are up 5% a day. These Bitcoin miner stocks are up 10% a day. These nuclear stocks are up 30% a week. And so maybe the market's just looking for some type of reason to bring a little bit more calmness to all the things that are running. And they're using China as an excuse, but it should end up being a buy the dip. Now, does that buy the dip result in all those high flying, high beta names getting back to their all-time highs when things recover? I don't know. Honestly, it probably does. If everything rallies, then those probably come back. Or does the market say, all right, NVIDIA gets to go back to 195, but Bitfarms doesn't get to go back to $7? I mean, we're going to see. We're going to see. But overall, it does feel like markets are just exhausted and they're using anything to give them an excuse. Yeah, gold is down for the first time today in a long time, and that's based on that China headline that came out as well. World Trade Officer Cheap have spoken with China, U.S. to urge de-escalation of trade tensions. Both sides understand the importance of dialogue. See, that's more de-escalation, which is also really important. Also, Hassett was on this morning, Kevin Hassett, the National Economic Advisor, and he basically said that we're going to get a deal with China in some way. The summary of what he said is we'll figure out how to deal with China. So I really don't think this is going to be that big of a deal, but we're going to have to see. China's upset because Bessent might punch them in the face. Yeah, maybe that's why. Maybe that's why they're finally negotiating. They don't want to get punched. But dude, I still refuse to believe Bessent is out here punching people, bro. Like, Bessent is a teddy bear, bro. You're telling me that guy's punching people? You're telling me this guy is out here punching Elon Musk, bro? What are we talking about? What are we talking about? That'd be hilarious. Who knows? Maybe he is. Maybe he is. The 10 years below 4, that is also very bullish. Chris and I were talking about that yesterday. I mean, you can interpret this as bearish, but I think it is really good for the 10-year to come down. Obviously, that decreases the cost for the national debt. Our borrowing costs, this is something that Trump has been trying to do since January, get this 10-year to come down. And the fact that the market's not crashing, like, we're talking about 10, 15% decline and the 10 years coming down is good. That means people are running to bonds as a form of safety, right? Because when you buy bonds, that's when the yields come down. But gold going up and bond yields coming down is weird because it means people are buying gold, which signals they're afraid of inflation, right? You usually buy gold as a hedge to inflation, a hedge to geopolitical instability, a hedge to market volatility. But you buy treasuries, or one could say you buy the 10-year as a way to lock in a good rate because you think that rates are going to come down, aka inflation potentially comes down, and you don't need to command more from the treasury for the cost of capital because you have a faith, at least to some extent, that inflation will start to dissipate, which is the whole reason why rates will come down in the first place. So it's a little bit of a weird dynamic. You usually don't see both of those things happening, gold going up and bond yields coming down, but that is happening. Maybe that changes if gold ends up, taking a bit of a breather. But I mean, for gold to fall back down to 3,600 would be a dramatic decline. Year to date, gold is up 61%. So it would be hard to see it come down that much. So that is another weird dynamic that's kind of going on in the broader market as well. And I guess we're going to have to see how that plays out. The VIX did close above 25 yesterday. Usually the VIX doesn't close above 25. I mean, it's happened 4 times over the past couple of years. So, one could argue that people are shorting the VIX as well today, and that could be hurting some of the volatility. But nonetheless, that's what we got going on. Oh, look at the text I just got from our buddy. Look at the text I just got from our buddy. He gave me a screenshot of he's watching. He's eating breakfast and watching with us. He's eating breakfast and watching with us. Shout out to Mr. Steve. I don't even know what time Steve slept. I left his stream at 12. I think he left at like 12:40 or something. But he's with us, drinking some Starbucks and watching the show. All right, so that's what we had with Bessent, Trump, China. I mean, those were the main headlines. We talked a bit more about the regional banks. We talked about gold. We'll see what happens. Here's something that people might not have seen, and this was pretty cool to see last night. Ladies and gentlemen, got Mr. Carp and 47. So there you go. There is Carp and Trump together. If you look closely, you know that Carp likes his Diet Coke. Look at that. And Trump's also a fan of Diet Coke. They got the Coke right there. And there's Carp drinking the Coke. And then there's another picture. It's pretty cool, dude. It's pretty cool. I mean, obviously we know that Palantir has a important relationship with the United States government. They've been obviously growing their government business rapidly, and whoever is in office, I mean, as a shareholder, I want the company to work with whoever is in office. And Palantir has been working with the government since Obama was president. So at the end of the day, Democrat or Republican, you need to have a good relationship with the administration. And it looks like Palantir is continuing to expand that relationship. So that is one thing we have. Palantir earnings is November 3rd. We're going to see what happens with Palantir on that earnings. I mean, dude, I think they're going to put up a pretty damn good quarter. And if this macro China stuff is not that big of a deal going into November, look, I don't want to say Palantir is going to 200, but I do think there is a world in which Palantir breaks through that all-time high at 190. Now, do they need to? Is it justified from value? No, right? Like, they don't need to do anything. I mean, the stock is already pricing in a lot of stuff. But if they put up one of those types of quarters, that's, one of the best quarters we're seeing in software in the entire market, I think it has a chance to do well. I think it has a chance to do well. And I was talking about this with Steve yesterday. I mean, we were looking at Salesforce numbers. I kind of came to the conclusion, and Salesforce increased their guidance, and they said they'll get to a rule of 50, et cetera. I think Palantir is the only exciting story in software right now. Like, what other story in software is as exciting as Palantir? It's not Salesforce. It's not Snowflake. It's not Datadog. It's not GitLab. Like, it's Palantir. It's not CrowdStrike. Like, none of these stocks none of these companies are growing at the rate Palantir is growing at. None of them are getting the use cases that Palantir is getting through AI. And then none of them are actually showing the potential to expand to potentially become $1 trillion company at the scale that Palantir is doing it at. It's just hard to find stories that are that exciting as Palantir. And as a result, Palantir gets a premium. But, we're going to have to see how that premium ultimately. Rubrik's a great company, but it's not as exciting as Palantir. When people think like, hey, can you grow 50% compounded, or at least 40% compounded, or even 35% compounded over the next couple of years? I don't think there's that many companies that are actually guiding to be able to do that. And Palantir hasn't guided for the next couple of years to do that, but they only have 900 customers. I mean, it would not be crazy for them to actually give a guide. Region, see what some people are saying about what's going on with those stocks.
He's a buyer of the dip, no surprise, very bullish.
No surprise.
But made the point that they're showing mild concern. We're not seeing any kind of like screaming warning signs, which is a place you would see it in the high yield market. The options adjusted spread is at 325 wider, which is off the August lows, but is not even close to how wide it blew out during the April 2nd Liberation Day.
Right.
When there was a big cause.
Well, I don't think
concern.
anybody's expecting a massive default cycle here, right, Sarah?
Right.
I don't think that's part of what the story is. It goes more to this, well, have underwriting standards fallen to a certain extent? Are we going to see more fraud because things were not disclosed, and ultimately the banks were not looking as closely as perhaps they should have at some of the portfolio or things that they didn't know
There's even
about.
a case.
That very well could be, but it's not a systemic risk for the system.
No, No, it wouldn't seem to be.
There's even a case that's made about high yield spreads, right? That's public debt that essentially there's kind of the riskier stuff is gone elsewhere outside of those types of bonds. So therefore, that's kind of flattering the credit picture a little bit. So again, I think we're all on the same page. And it's not like there's any kind of real smoldering, disaster that's going on here. But it's, when you have the market that's sort of priced itself for a pretty pristine outlook, you're going to have a little bit of a
well, and
of a
that
step back.
So what did Zion's exactly announce? What was it, a $50 million, $60 million hit? And then they took $1 billion off the market cap?
Yeah, which is why you've got some upgrades. I know one of them today, $1 billion market cap loss over 50 million loss seems excessive. Yeah, and that was Baird as well saying that. So
there's not a lot of deep conviction or trust in regional banks as a category, right? They're not like, there's nothing special about most of them. And so they are just kind of broad sectoral cyclical plays. So I do think that there's a sell first instinct, whether it's justified or not.
But I thought they were special now because now they can merge and they can do deals.
But they're special in the sense of they have options. But I mean, in terms of like, Zions has IP that we really want to own and it deserves a premium. I mean, no offense.
By the way, Zions and Western Alliance were two of the banks that were certainly every day were getting crushed during the mini banking crisis of March of 2023.
Okay, so let me know if the audio is okay, guys. But basically, the argument that they are making right there is that the regionals are the first thing that will be sold. And the reason the regionals are the first thing that will be sold is because people don't have that much faith in the regionals. Now, I don't think people don't have faith in the regionals. I think in a portfolio, same thing like with Bitcoin. I mean, when people look for liquidity, they sell first and investigate later. And unfortunately, that's been happening with Bitcoin and all the other crypto assets. But yeah, it's understandable that people sell off regionals in terms of being able to raise capital. Zion's announcing a $50 million charge off and then getting $1 billion wiped out of their market cap. That's obviously fear of like what could happen. But if it's not a structural problem with credit, then it becomes a nothing burger. Especially with the regional banks that reported today, their credit provision losses were way lower than expected, as we talked about 10 minutes ago. So again, it just doesn't feel like you should run for the hills because regionals suck. Maybe there's something else going on, but I don't think that should be the broader problem with the market. So that's what we got with regionals. Now, Bitcoin, unfortunately, has just been horrible. I would love to know in the chat, let me do the red or green poll as well for today. Why do we think that Bitcoin and Ethereum, or let's just say Bitcoin in general, because Ethereum, quite frankly, follows Bitcoin. Why do we think that Bitcoin's not moving? Why do we think that this thing has been as ugly as it's been over the past couple weeks? Green or red today? Green or red, let's see. Like, is it like this is supposed to be October? By the way, this might be if Bitcoin can't get back to, let me get the exact price right here. Bitcoin needs to get back to, oh, wow, dude. Bitcoin needs to get back to 115,000 for us to not have the second green October or second red October in the past 12 years. Usually there's only been one October that Bitcoin has been red in the past 10 years. This would be the second if we don't get back to 115 by the end of the month. So we have 14 days to get there. Maybe it does, maybe she doesn't. But I mean, it's kind of wild, right? It's supposed to be October. It's supposed to be Bitcoin getting momentum, and it's just not. It's just not getting there. People are preparing cash. People are afraid of geopolitics. Binance had a lot of issues. That's fair. Risk off. People are pumping gold instead. Top is in, dude. I mean, you got your Tom Lee saying 250 end of year. If we topped out at 126, that would be a little ugly. Maybe it's waiting for rate cuts as well. Maybe that's what's happening. Yeah, OPEX is going to be important today as well. So options are expiring across the board. You're going to have probably hundreds of billions of dollars of options expire because today's a Friday. So that could also just make things a little weird today. Yeah, dude, it's weird. It hasn't been like what people thought it would be. It really hasn't, but we got to see. Bitcoin is not a real hedge like gold. I mean, I think, dude, objectively, this is not even like debatable. Bitcoin is not becoming a hedge. It is becoming a hedge long term if you disagree with the currency debasement issues. and that means you buy it and you just don't look at it. But as a like manager of the portfolio that adopts a strategy weekly, monthly, or daily, it's not a hedge, bro. It becomes the first thing you liquidate. It's just we're seeing it in the price. Whenever bad news comes out, this thing goes down, and it eventually recovers over time. But it is quite fascinating to see the year it's had. And as a result, MicroStrategy has been horrible this year. MicroStrategy had 278 right here. It got to, 271 in the pre-markets at one point. ASTS was at 100 yesterday. That's at 84. That got hit. Rocket Lab actually is kind of holding in the mid-60s, 65. Yeah, it was at 73.9 yesterday. If you've owned Bitcoin for at least 4 years, yes, you've done okay. It's just in the short term, it doesn't operate as that easy hedge. I'm just sad that Bernie Madoff isn't here to see this. Amit, are you grabbing more grab? Yeah, I bought in the pre-markets already. I bought at 565 in the pre-markets. I mean, dude, this is becoming stupid, in my opinion. Like, based on the work I've done on analyzing the valuation of the company, this is just becoming dumb. But I also understand that if the S&P takes a hit, if Robinhood takes a hit, if SoFi takes a hit, if AMD takes a hit, AMD from 240 to 230, Grab's going to take a hit, regardless of if it's justified or not. And so to me, this is when I double down on the names I'm convicted in. And I also double down on things that I know are safe. This company has $7 billion in cash and profitable. It's safer to me. It's not going to run like an Oklo, but I can sleep well at night knowing I have those shares. And I think at this time of the year, like, it's really important to double down on shit that you think is safe. Amazon, also very safe. I bought the dip yesterday on Amazon, 214.55. I think my cost basis is now 217, but like, it's safer to me than a lot of other plays in the market. And I don't think that's horrible. Bsoft says, I'm out of HIMS complete. Oh, yeah, dude, that was not the best look. So Andrew Dudum sold HIMS yesterday. He sold a decent chunk of shares. And it was just weird, bro, because he sold shares, but he also posted this thing yesterday. This eye emoji on someone saying the HIMS squeeze is there. And then bro files to sell $11 million worth of shares. Now, look, a lot of people didn't really, I could just say a lot of people in the HIMS community didn't love my comments that I made yesterday, saying that I thought it was cringe. And they're like, well, what about when Karp says to burn the shorts? And what about when Elon says this and that? I'm like, look, okay, I will give you the point that yes, Karp and Elon are also eclectic and eccentric, and they will say things publicly on television and stuff, Elon more through Twitter, and it can be kind of weird, right? Especially to the conventional shareholder. However, my retort to that is as follows. Number one, Karp and Elon are weird people. They are able to get away with being weird. There's also something about reading the room, right? Like, Karp and Elon are weird. People know they're weird. That, like, their entire brand is being weird, and that kind of makes them who they are. So, like, Andrew Dudum is not some weird guy. He's just some regular dude who operates like, it's just it becomes weird when you do things that are actually weird and cringe when you're not perceived as weird and cringe. And I know that logic may sound counterintuitive, but that is something that is just the reality of, like, the world that we live in right here. And so I think that's one point. Number two is that, look, Karp saying we're going to burn the shorts, or we're going to, take the short sellers to get their cocaine on CNBC in a interview with Sarah Eisman. It's the most Karp thing ever, because he's already this guy writes philosophical shareholder letters, and he's done it for the past 14 quarters. And he goes on these rambles and rants. His mind just goes somewhere, and that stuff ends up coming out of his mouth. He does not have a Twitter account that is quoting me saying, oh, I think Palantir is getting squeezed with a eye emoji, because that shit is just cringe. It's just cringe, bro. It's cringe in a different way. And look, the Coke short sellers, I didn't think that comment was cringe, because, I thought it was pretty cool the way he was saying it, especially given the nature of the personality that Karp has, but other people thought it was cringe. That's fair. You're allowed to think that that's cringe. I'm also allowed to think that what Dudum's doing is really weird, especially right when you're about to sell $11 million worth of stock. It's not a bear case for HIMS, right? I already said it's not a bear case for HIMS. It's just not a good look. It's just not a good look. And I know a lot of the HIMS people aren't going to agree with me on this, and they're going to think I'm being a hypocrite or whatever. CT says Amit is weird. That's why we love him. Yeah, dude, I can make certain jokes because I'm perceived as weird in certain way. Like, I can mispronounce certain words and get away with it. And you guys will give me shit, but you won't give me that much shit, because you know that like I can call the European EU Commission president laggard, because you guys know that I don't know how to talk. right? And so like I can get away with that. But if you're some professional like CNBC host or something, you can't get away with that shit because people are like, why can't you say her name correctly? It's the thing is, it's just weird to do it on Twitter of all places and then sell the day after. Not a bear case for Hims. It's I don't know. It's just not the best look. And I'm not the only one. I know that a lot of Hims people may disagree with me and they think I'm being too nitpicky. But if you just look at objectively, a lot of other people talking about this on Twitter, it really looks weird. It's not something that people love. But regardless, those are my thoughts. It might be a weak argument. You know, look, it might be if you're super into Hims, you probably don't care about that argument either. I'm just saying, in the back of your head, even if you're a Hims shareholder, like the thing is, when Cart made those Coke seller, short seller comments, and you know they're going to do cocaine, like almost 95% of the Palantir investor base was like, yeah, bro, like it riled you up, it gave you energy. I don't know if 90. I mean, Nate's a good friend of mine. Nate's been preaching to him. Nate is one of the reasons I bought Hims in the first place. Nate was like, dude, this shit is weird. Why is he quoting some random guy on Twitter saying that Hims is going to squeeze and then he's freaking selling stock the day after? Like, even Nate was like, I don't understand why this is happening. But regardless, it doesn't really matter that much. Hims will be fine long term if they keep executing. AMD price target right there, 250 to 300. That's what you got on AMD. So you do have an upgrade right there by Bank of America Securities. Hims did get Hims didn't get an upgrade. They got a sell rating from Bank of America, a reiteration of that sell rating. So I don't know why Bank of America just hates Hims, but they really do hate Hims. So they like AMD. They like NVIDIA. They don't really love Hims. Micron also doing okay. Oh, yeah, this was another headline this morning. Micron, New York approves power line for Micron's $100 billion semiconductor power plant. You're getting more of the local governments and jurisdictions starting to be a bit more friendly, I guess you could say, to the companies that are building out these data centers and semiconductor ecosystems. Micron right there, 200 in the pre-markets, which is also pretty nice to see as well. Now, here's a stat that I think is also really important. We got about 7 minutes until the market opens. Take a look at this. Polymarket's data, this is what they put out yesterday, shows how close they are to truth in real time. Across thousands of markets, accuracy sits at 91% even a month before a resolution comes out, and a 95% just 4 hours out. So Polymarket is pricing in a 97% chance, or it might be Kalshi, it's one of those, that Michael Saylor will be on the Joe Rogan podcast, which, by the way, Palmer Luckey was on it yesterday. And I mean, look, if someone told me Michael Saylor was going to be on Joe Rogan, I wouldn't believe them. I'd be like, that's probably not happening. Like, you know, like, where's your source for that? But if Kalshi is saying there's a 97% chance that it happens, I start to believe it, because the accuracy of the wisdom of the crowd's thesis is like becoming much more real than not. So it's quite incredible to see that playing out. And, you know, hopefully that ends up actually happening. But these prediction markets are becoming more and more important, and it looks like they can't be denied. Oracle executive says AI infrastructure has seen a 117% growth rate year over year in Q1 of 2026, which is next quarter. Oracle executives yesterday also said cloud infrastructure revenue is expected to be $166 billion by fiscal year 2030. So they are giving more guidance across the board on what's happening with Oracle and what's happening, you know, with their remaining performance obligations. By the way, that RPO growth that was up 350% yesterday at their Oracle conference, they said that RPO growth is now up 500% going into 2030, which is pretty crazy. So if you believe that they're actually going to be able to get those contracts, then you are getting some momentum into what could happen with Oracle. Apple won F1's US broadcast rights with a landmark 5-year deal. So now on Apple TV, you will be able to watch Formula One. I'm going to be honest, I've never seen Formula One before. I haven't even seen the movie with Brad Pitt. I've really never been into racing or like seeing cars race each other. So I've like never watched it, but I guess Formula One is a massive, massive sport for a lot of people. And yeah, Apple looks like they got, I mean, Steve has said this so many times, Apple should be buying so many sports rights and integrating them into their ecosystem. I mean, imagine if Apple bought Madison Square Garden, as Steve had mentioned before, and they had access to all the New York games, all the live shows and concerts, and they could integrate it into maybe the Vision Pro to make it something that's more compelling. Like, Apple has a lot of cash outside of buying back their stock. I mean, getting media rights to be able to make their products more compelling and just more sticky, I feel like it's not crazy. But that is one thing Apple is doing with F1. Okay, here's an update from ChatGPT last night, OpenAI, that I thought was also pretty interesting. So for those that are on Sora, Okay, you can basically take any historical character and get them to do whatever you want them to do. So people were taking Martin Luther King Jr.'s "I Have a Dream" speech, and well, they were applying AI to it. And Dr. MLK Jr. was saying some things that I've seen some of the videos, and I cannot deny how hilarious some of them are. But nonetheless, it pissed off the estate. And OpenAI comes out yesterday and says, hey, some users generated disrespectful depictions of Dr. King's image. So at King's Inc.'s request, OpenAI has paused generations depicting Dr. King as it strengthens guardrails for historical figures. Okay, now, here's my take on this. First of all, obviously, if the estate of MLK Jr. doesn't want like that type of content being put, I think OpenAI should respect that, right? I think that makes sense. And like, you know, given how crazy AI can become, that can end up resulting in some horrible content. But here's my take, and here's why I'm thinking Sam Altman is just ruthless. How did he not know? He's either ruthless or he's an idiot. Or maybe he just doesn't care. How did you not know that if you license historical figures to teenagers that are joining Sora, that don't have their brains developed, that will type in these prompts that make these historical figures say and do ridiculous things, that this wouldn't happen? Like, how did you not know this obviously would happen? It's almost just, it really makes me think these guys don't understand or care that much about safety, because to not think that, yeah, if we license one of the most prominent civil rights historical figures of all time to the public would manipulate the likeliness of that historical figure in a weird AI way. Oh yeah, let's just let that happen. And, you know, and it's one thing to say move fast and break things. It's another thing to be like, that's just stupid. And then here's the follow-up question. What if Kim Kardashian comes out and says, I don't like how people are using my likeliness? What if Brad Pitt comes out and says, dude, I don't like this AI shit. Like, I have a reputation. I'm an actor. I have a public perception. And now the Sora app is feeding all these thousands of people different versions of me talking in different ways. Like, at what point does this become a censorship debate versus a free speech debate? At what point does the government get involved and say, hey, there's copyright laws on people's own individual personalities that, you know, don't that shouldn't be allowed to be depicted in this way? It's very weird, and I think OpenAI trying to be laissez-faire about it, it's not going to work. But the fact that they even tried in the first place, not expecting the pushback they would get, and now they got the pushback, is a weird issue. And I can just imagine the lawsuits, bro, across the board. And also, forget just the legal aspect of it. If you're Sam Altman, do you really want to piss off the estate of Dr. MLK Jr.? Do you want to piss off all these pop culture icons and get them opposed to never like touching your AI product because you're allowing people to do this? Doesn't seem like that makes much sense. But this is going to be another problem that, you know, the overall ecosystem of AI is going to have to deal with long term. And I guess we're going to see how this ends up playing out. All right, folks, here we go. We got about 20 seconds until the market opens. Thank you, everybody, for being here. It is Friday at 2 a.m. We were deep red. An hour ago, Trump said we're not going to put tariffs on China and we'll try to get a deal by next week. That reversed pretty much everything. Let's see as the market opens up what happens and if we end up getting to buy the dip or if the market continues to sell off. It is 9:30 a.m. Friday, October 17th. Thank you, everybody, for being here. The stock market is now open. All right, wake your ass up. Let's get into it. S&P down on the day, not down that much, but we are red. Grab goes down 1.3%. SoFi down 1%. AMD down 1%. NVIDIA down 1%. Tessie down 1%. Palantir down 1%. Hoodie down 2.3%. Reddit's down 2.4%. Amazon's actually flat. It's down the least out of a lot of these names, but still is red. Meta is down 0.5%. Salesforce is flat. PayPal's down a third. Apple's actually green. Bitcoin 105, Ethereum 4,700, Bitmine's probably at 51. Bitmine is at, never mind, 49.50. It did get to 47, I think, in the pre-markets. So Bitmine taking a hit. CrowdStrike's down 1, Coinbase down 3, Rocket Lab's down 1.3, MicroStrategy down 1, but up from the pre-markets. S&P still down 0.2, so it's not like we're out of the woods by any sense of the imagination, although this was way worse at 2 a.m. So it's a little recovery, but not as nice of a recovery. NVIDIA right here down 1%. Tesla down 0.5%. BABA's down 2%. VIX is down, but still right below 25. It closed above 25 yesterday, but 24.60 is where the VIX is at right now. Walmart right there down about 0.5%. Lyft is also down 1.2%. CoreWeave down 3.5%. Coinbase down 2%. CrowdStrike down 1%. The VIX is down, but still pretty up on the day. And then Nubank right here, that is also down about 0.5% on the day. Whereas Amcor, this one is held up at 31. Not horrible. It's held up okay, but you're still getting some pain. S&P 500 right there trying to recover, 659.90. Might be going green. There's that candle right there. Maybe we get it, but everything else still pretty red. Oracle, are we getting hit? Oracle, we got hit. Oracle, 298. That's down. Oracle is indeed down 297, down from 302 in the pre-markets. Tesla, again, still going down. Salesforce is down. ASTS, this was at 102 yesterday. ASTS is 84.49. Let's look at the rare earth stocks. Rare earths are down, all of them, across the board, continuing their pain from yesterday. How about the Bitcoin miners? They are all red, although Iran, pretty decent recovery. It was at 54 in the pre-markets. It's at 60 now. So that's not too bad. At least you got some juice right there. That's still down 1%. Bitfarms, 502. This thing was at 650 yesterday. Marathon's down. Riot's down. Galaxy's down. CleanSpark's down. Cypher is also down. Rocket Lab went green. Rocket Lab, okay. Rocket Lab's one of the growth names that's going green. Let's see if that's a trend across the board. Maybe we can get some more. SoFi just went green for a second. So if I join the party for a little bit, Apple's still holding on to its green, Palo Alto green, but pretty much everything else outside of Rocket Lab is red. Verizon and your value names are holding up. How about UNH? UNH did get a price target upgrade to 375 this morning, but they are also down on the day. What about Quantum? QBTS. Wow, down another 5%. IONQ, it was down 10% yesterday, down another 1%. And then Rigetti down 7%. All right, so all the quantum names still bleeding. And all of those are also down. SMCI, how about that one? Delta is down a little bit. SMCI is down about 2%. Where is United Airlines? They had a great earnings a couple of days ago. That one's actually green. IBKR also had a pretty good earnings. IBKR right there, 65.87. That is down about 3.87% on the day. There you go. Google right there, 1.2. And then Grab 561. It looks like she wants to break 560 as she continues to get hit. TLT is actually down, which means the 10 years up a little bit. And then AppLovin, that one's also down on the day. I wonder how this turns out in the next hour, bro, because S&P is about to go green, but everything's still red. It's not as bad as it was before. Grab just broke 560. That one's getting hit. Robinhood was almost at 124 in the pre-market. So, I mean, it's gapping back up to 130, but like, can that actually sustain throughout the end of the day? You have a ton of options that are expiring in a few hours as well. NVIDIA breaking 181. I mean, it looks like we're trying to go green, but a lot of these names are still getting slammed. Mr. Beast has filed a trademark application for Mr. Beast Financial, planning to register a company to provide cryptocurrency trading services and more. Okay, we hit the top. That's it. That's the headline. And I know we've been saying every headline's the top, but this one's legit. Like, Mr. Beast is gonna give out Bitcoin. Dude, what freaking scam crypto company is he partnering with to do? How much did they pay him to do this shit, bro? Mr. Beast has been losing some aura, I'm not gonna lie, over the past couple of years. He's been taking some deals that are just like, what are you doing, bro? Why are you doing this shit? I don't know. Mr. Beast, really? All right, I guess we'll see what happens with that. I mean, I'm just joking about it being the top, but definitely is weird when influencers like that get involved in the crypto space. Google right there, that's down 0.5%, losing 250 as well. Triple V, thank you for the $200 super chat. For those that have been wondering where Triple V has been, he's been traveling. I actually got a text from Mr. Derek today, and Triple V, he told me where you were. So I was like, oh, that's why he's been gone for so long. But yeah, there he is. Thank you again for the super chat. Thank you for being here. I don't even know if he's looked at his portfolio because he's halfway across the world right now getting some business deals done. So he might not be looking as heavily. But Google right there, 250. SoFi's up a little bit. And then S&P trying to recover. Triple V again, thank you for the super chat. And thank you for being here. BM&R, do we buy $49.90? I mean, Look, it comes down to Ethereum, right? If this thing breaks the floor at around 34, 35, which was its low last week, then this thing's going below 49. If it holds up, it holds up. I'm not that excited to buy the BMNR dip because I already have a lot of BMNR. Like I have a pretty sizable position. So to me, I'm just like, it's got to be super, super attractive to want to buy more. And I'm not saying 49 is not attractive, but it's not like, oh my goodness, it's at like 40. That's attractive. Same thing with Hood, right? It's like, again, Hood's got to give me something really good to buy because I already have a big position. There's one of those things where you got to really see something. Even NVIDIA, like I've wanted to buy more NVIDIA, but I'm like 195 to 180 is not that compelling. You give me 170, I get, back to being excited. But it's not really there. Star position in Cypher. All right, so we got some people. Let me know if you're buying the dip. Who's buying the dip in the chat? If you call this a dip, I mean, S&P is about to break green, so it's a dip from yesterday, but it's not necessarily a dip. What do you think about grab at 550? If we actually get to 550, I will buy more. I mean, I'll buy a lot more if we get there. Again, this is one of my favorite dip buys in the market, but we got to see if we actually get there. I also think, I mean, dude, grab was at 660 last week. You're telling me it deserves to go to 550 for what? Like nothing fundamental about the company. If it's about, China stuff, then okay, like whatever. If it's China stuff, then sure. But like, I just don't think that's a strong enough reason. Oh, we're going green. Look at these green candles. We're getting some real green right here. S&P 661, Robinhood back to 130, NVIDIA almost 182. Even Grab just broke out right there to 560. SoFi, look at that, 1% to 27. Did Trump tweet or is this algos? This looks like a Trump tweet. That's a pretty violent green candle right there. No tweet. I don't see any update. Bitcoin, where's Bitcoin? Okay, 104 to 106. That's a $2,000 candle on Bitcoin. That also helps. Gold, where's gold? I wouldn't say gold's crashing, but gold's definitely, well, no, actually, no, gold's crashing. Okay, not crashing, but 43 to 42.60. Let's go, baby. Dude, that's the only reason that's good. I don't want people to lose money in gold. I'm just saying that's good because like people aren't as scared as they were piling into gold. So they're able to take a little bit more risk if they're selling off their gold. And that's what you're saying. 43.50 to 42.60 in the matter of almost 10 minutes. I mean, that's not horrible. What if the real, we're talking about all these bubbles. What if the real bubble's in gold? What if the real bubble is in gold, bro? What if that's where the bubble is? Would be quite incredible to see. Dude, S&P just lost that candle. We just went to 661 and we're back to 659.80 within the span of 30 seconds. Goodness gracious, bro. It had 2 seconds to hold on to that green and then it just got wiped out. This market's being ruthless right now, dude. It's being ruthless. Not even giving you a chance to hold on to a little bit. Now we're back down to 659.70. It's almost like that pop to 661 didn't even happen. I hate the stock market, bro. I hate it. All it does is get your hopes up, bro. That's all it does every day. It's imaginary monopoly money. It's not even real money, bro. It's just like numbers on a screen. None of this shit's real unless you sell. It's all fake. Keeps you addicted to looking at candles all day. Candles don't love you. They don't care about you. They could care less about you. They're going to go up or down regardless of if you want them to go up or down. It's actually a big Ponzi, bro, to be honest. It's the best Ponzi we have, but it's a Ponzi. Rare earths are going up. I don't see what was the headline that just got it to spike. Yeah, rare earths are going up. Dude, I feel like there's a piece of news we're missing that caused that spike and then caused gold to get hit as bad as it got hit. I don't see it though. American Express said government shutdown hasn't hit customers yet. Did we have American Express earnings? That's a big one. Yeah, American Express beat on the top and the bottom. Look at that. 4% beat on EPS, 2% beat on revenue. Revenue's up 11% year over year. EPS is up 19% year over year. So you got American Express putting up good numbers. Again, another bank that's out there, another financial institution that's not really showing signs of weakness. But the regionals are the issue that we had yesterday. It's also a Friday, dude. That's the other thing we got to remember. Fridays, sometimes get low volume. You sometimes get people just calling it early for the weekend. You have tons of options expiring. So that could also be happening. Mercado Libre, again, it's down based on the fears of, there's a couple reasons, but the main one that we talked about last week was Amazon entering Brazil more heavily and Latin America. I just don't know enough about Mercado Libre to buy these guys. I mean, I think it's worth doing a deep dive, and probably will do a deep dive eventually on them, but they don't have an AWS. They're the Amazon of Latin America without an AWS. Now they have a payments infrastructure, which makes up the majority of their margin because that's the fintech part of the business. But it's hard for me to buy the Amazon of Latin America, not fully understanding the dynamics of their path to profitability, or their path to really expand profitability. But it's a high quality company, very, very high quality company from the people that I know that own this stock. And I think in 5 years, if you buy the dip on this, you're going to be okay. It's just a question of really understanding what you're buying. Next decade, that's up a little bit, 9%, getting some love right there. That's getting some green. So that's doing okay. How about Archer and Joby? What about those guys? Archer, 1146, that's down 3.5. Joby, that's also down 1.18. Yeah, Matt talked about Next yesterday. That was also true. Did you see Lemonade integrating Tesla live driving data into the product? I did not, but that should be bullish for Lemonade. Lemonade right there up about 1.4%. Lemonade's also been stuck. It was at 60 a couple weeks ago, and then it was down. Yes, Jason said 551 was support for grab. If we lose 551, that could get ugly, but maybe that's where we bounce as well. Palantir right there, 176.44. That's down about 1% on the day. BMNR, we have back above 50. Nope, 49.50. 49.50. By the way, Bloomberg, we don't have U.S. initial jobless claims because the government's closed, but Bloomberg reporting based on looking at state data that jobless claims fell last week. So you're getting some level of data based on the fact that the government is shut down from these third-party sources, independent sources to try to figure it out. Dude, Kalshi says we're not going to reopen until November 16th. So I don't know, dude. And Trump's not talking about the shutdown anymore. He's talking about China. So I mean, we're going to really see if this thing can get fixed in the next year or in the next coming weeks. Barclays raised their price target on Tesla to 350. So you do have an upgrade there. And then PayPal, Elf, and Salesforce go green. PayPal, Elf, and Salesforce go green. Would you buy Hood at these levels? For me, no, because I have a lot of it. For someone DCAing, I mean, look, I don't think a nibble is way better here than at 150. No, here's the thing about Hood, and this is more applicable to everything high beta. The high beta names like a Nebius, for example, that are down. Outside of the growth story of Nebius around data centers, outside of the growth story of Robinhood on democratizing financial services, the only way these names get back to the 150s and 140s of the world is if we have a bull market. Like, I'm sorry, but that's just the truth. If we don't have S&P 7,000, I think it's going to be hard for Nebius to get back to 140. I think it's going to be hard for Hood to get back to 150. So if you're buying Hood here because your upside is 150 by the end of the year, or you think it can get back there like it was a week ago, then you really got to believe we end out the year in a bull market. Now, if you're buying it for the next decade, it's whatever, right? Even if you bought it at 150 for the next decade, who cares, right? If you're literally buying it with a sort of 10-year time horizon. But if you're buying it strategically to kind of be like, all right, I'm getting a better price than 150. I want to jump in and hopefully we get back to 150. You've got to believe we end the year out S&P closer to 7,000, right? Otherwise, how? How does Bitmine get back above 65 if S&P's, and Ethereum is probably closer to 5,000 if S&P gets to 7,000? A lot of the stuff moves in tandem. And so I think when you're buying the dip on a high beta, that's why I'm buying the dip more on grab, because it's not high beta. And if I have to hold it for the next 5 years, I don't really care. And I know I'm getting a decent deal based on my understanding of the valuation. If you're buying NVIDIA right here to get back to 195 and we don't get S&P 7,000, it's going to suck by end of year. But over the next 3 years, I think NVIDIA is probably getting closer to 300 if they can do $11 of EPS by 2027. So 180 is not that bad. But the question becomes, if you're buying something high beta, do you believe that the alpha to the market will return by end of year? IREN right there, 58.38. 58.38. That one loses 60. Oscar also losing 22. That's down about 5% as well. High beta just means like names that move at a very rapid speed towards conventional names. Like Verizon is not high beta. There's not that much excitement, energy, swings, volatility, etc. But Palantir, Reddit, Robinhood, all these other CoreWeave, this stuff. CoreWeave was at 142 yesterday. Why? Because They're rumored to be in some data center deal with NVIDIA in Texas and a new AI startup, and like, boom, that headline will take it up. Do they get back to 140? Sure, but like they either need a really good headline or they need the market to reverse. They need the VIX to stop spiking. So I think a lot of these things are not even predicated on the companies themselves. All of them have really good like fundamental stories, especially over the next 5 years. It's over the next 5 months do those stories get back to normal. Yeah, Ford is low beta. Exactly. When is your birthday? It's October 27th. Alexo says on 21st October, I'm celebrating 1 year since I started investing. Wow, I love it. It's 4 days investing anniversary. I think I legit started investing closer to 2019. Didn't get into it as much. Like 2019, I started like looking at stocks and caring about the market. 2020, obviously, because of COVID, everyone, had more time to care. But yeah, 1 year investing anniversary definitely is something that is special. And it matters, right? Being an investor, going through the emotional swings we go through every day. It is not for the faint of heart. Like to be able to deal with this shit every day and to willingly put ourselves through the euphoria and the misery at the same time. By the way, all of us are still pretty much up for the year, bro. I mean, it's not like, we're losing money this year. S&P is still up 10%. Most of us have beat the S&P. So it's like, it's not up as much as it was last week, but it's nothing to cry about. It's just annoying because all these digits go down on the screen, but it's important. It's important to even be happy that you're in the game in the first place. Admit you're coping. Yes, I am coping. I'm exactly. Yes. I am 100% coping. Let's look at the heat map. What do we got? I think we're going to get a red heat map. I think we'll get a pretty red heat map. Let's see. We are, relatively red. Gray is more like nothing changed. Gray is like flat, down 0.5%. You have some pockets of green in financials. Palladium goes down 7%. Silver, by the way, is down 4%. And gold goes down about 2.5% as well. Why is the VIX falling while the market's going wild? Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting question, but the VIX coming down doesn't necessarily mean the market has to go up. The VIX has to come down dramatically for the market to kind of, get that top in the short-term top in the VIX and then spike, which would signal a bottom in the equity market. But if the VIX falls a couple percentage points, it's not like an immediate market goes higher. VIX is still 24. I mean, the VIX was under 20 for like 5 months. So the fact that we've been living with the VIX above 22, 23 for the past couple of days is why you're seeing all this volatility. Yeah, VIX under 20 would be when we're calming down a bit more. Regional banks got a little bit of an upgrade. Well, let's see KRE. This thing was wrecked yesterday. This is the ETF for regional banks. Wow, it's actually up. Okay, so a little recovery, which is not horrible. And you're getting some green. By the way, in the pre-market, the European regional bank index was hit 3%. That one might have recovered since then. A little bit, but you did get a bit of a hit in European regional banks as well from the United States, which is kind of stupid, bro. Like one bank in the United States saying we have some issues, which is a $50 million issue, by the way, that wiped out $1 billion in market cap. That's affecting all the European regional banks. Like, that's just weird. It goes to show how fragile this market is on narratives. And it also goes to show how excited the market can be on narratives. I mean, OpenAI and AMD announced something, boom, AMD is up 40%. Like, that's not normal in any market. But it's also not normal for one bank to say we had a bad earnings, even though every other bank said we've had a phenomenal earnings, and then the markets crash. I mean, it's the volatility that goes with you up or down across the board. Let's look at the stock draft and see what we've got there. Let's see. So Matt's at 45%. Still, I'm at 36. Matt, Rock 11 AST really helping. SoFi just went green. Tanner's at 19. Steve's at 6. Chris is at 10. The only way I have a chance of beating Matt is if Duolingo fully recovers or if Matt loses some momentum on Rocket Lab and ASTS. If not, Matt's going to win this probably for a while. But we still have, another 8 months to see how this plays out. S&P just went green again. Dude, this is like 7 different green versus red switches on the market. AMD might lose 230 right here. Oh, it did lose 230 at 228, back to 230. It's weird, bro. Back and forth, up and down. Back and forth, up and down. I got grabbed at 549 overnight. Wow, that's incredible. You got it at 549. Trump was live yesterday as well. He didn't talk too much about the broader market. However, he did say something that pissed off a lot of people. And this is what he said.
It's such a big category, everything follows. So just about everything follows. And we are working on beef, and I think we have a deal on beef that's going to bring the price of beef. That would be the one product that we would say is a little bit higher than we want it, maybe higher than we want it. And that's going to be coming down pretty soon, too. We did something. We worked our magic. But groceries are down, and energy is down. Electricity is way down. We have the prices coming down for people. They were abused for 4 years by the Biden administration. Thank you very much, everybody.
The beef stuff didn't really piss people off. What pissed people off was him saying groceries are down, electricity is down, prices are down. If you looked at some of the comments underneath that video, people were like, no, stocks way down. They would be, no, electricity is not down. Groceries are not down. Prices are not necessarily coming down. Now, to an extent, he's right about that. I mean, eggs are back down to the lowest price they were since May of 2023. But as an aggregate, even if statistically he may be correct, you're seeing a lot of people that just anecdotally are like, that's not the case. But stocks are still up for the year, which goes to that bifurcation of the economy, right? Do you own assets or do you not own assets? Because if you own assets, you might not care that much that grocery prices are not down as much as they need to be. If you don't own assets, that's really upsetting. And so it's like, it's a tale of two economies. S&P actually making a move right here. Let's see if this one has any juice to it. If we can break 662, look at that green. Maybe 658.20 was that bottom. I tried not to own assets, just beef and soybeans. Exactly. Just beef and soybeans. Oh, are we going to, oh yeah, we hit 662. Okay, let's see if there's any juice that we can squeeze out. That Palantir 180, Tesla 432. She's trying to get there. If she goes right back down, then today is just an up and down day. There's no trend that we can get here. NASDAQ going green as well. That is also true. Let me see, what other headlines do we have? What else do we have? That is not Powell standing behind Trump. That is Dr. Oz. My mom texted me the other day too. She's like, my mom used to watch Dr. Oz like 10 years ago. She's like, why is Dr. Oz in the Oval Office? I was like, he's part of the administration. She's like, okay, I guess. There you go. S&P 662.20. Robinhood breaks 130. Across the board, you're seeing some green candles. Meta goes green. Salesforce goes green. PayPal goes green. Roblox, Uber, Palantir, Hood, Rocket Lab, 67.60. NVIDIA back to 182. Okay, the buyers are stepping in. Oh, here we go. So this might be the headline. U.S. jobless claims fell to around 215,000 last week, even as the government shutdown delays official reports. Bloomberg and Goldman Sachs data show a steady labor market with continuing claims nearing 1.9 million. That might be the headline, to be honest. It might literally be Bloomberg saying jobless claims are way lower than expected. I mean, usually it averages like 230, 235. 215 is actually pretty good, to be honest, given people are concerned about the labor market. But it might not be enough. It might not be enough to keep us green. Oklo just went green. All right, so maybe some risk ons coming back to the market. There you go. Oklo is up. Amit, what's your time frame on AMKR? I'm holding for at least a year. I think it gets re-rated closer to 50. And yeah, it didn't react to much of the chaos because, again, it doesn't have that much of a multiple in the first place. So the risk in buying something like an Amcor is that the multiple doesn't expand. The safety in buying something like an Amcor is that when stocks go down, this thing will go down, but it's not going to, it's down 12 cents today. And it's not going to go down as much as a Robinhood that has a lot more beta baked into it and a lot more multiple baked into it. So it's kind of a sweet spot. If you're right on the name, if you're right on the thesis, you should get decent upside. I'm thinking closing in on 45, 50% upside. If you're wrong on the name, you shouldn't have that much downside unless the company really messes up, which, theoretically you should do enough due diligence to hopefully try to mitigate against that. And so that's why I like the valuation of Amcor. Robner right there, 130.3. That's breaking 130 again. SoFi trying to finally get to 27. Is HIMS tanking? Wow, 8% down on HIMS. Is that so Trump, it might be a reflection of the comments Trump made yesterday about Trump basically was like, we're going to try to get the fat shot drug to come down in prices. And Eli Lilly got hit, all those stocks got hit like that. So I guess HIMS to an extent is affected as well. But that's a pretty nasty 8% decline. We'll see if that reverses. You're getting a little 53 to 54, a little reversal right there. S&P 661. HIMS is dead with the CEO like that. Dude, like, no, I don't. I know I talked about the CEO this morning, but HIMS is not dead just because the CEO had that eye emoji and then he sold shares. Like, is it cringe? Yes, 100%. Is HIMS dead? No, of course not, bro. At the end of the day, if you're a HIMS shareholder, you care about the business, not what the CEO is doing in that respect like that. Now, it probably turns off a lot of the shareholders, but by no means is it dead, right? Every CEO has their own quirks. I just didn't expect the HIMS CEO to. Also, he did this before. This is not his first time quoting someone about, or responding to someone talking about the stock. So that's another reason I think it's rubbing people the wrong way. But it's not endemic of a structural problems inside of the company. Now, Bank of America is saying their Q3 is going to suck. If you want to give a bear case, Bank of America is saying we're looking at credit card orders. We're looking at their average order per customer. We don't think Q3 is going to be a good quarter. That could be a better bear case. But I don't think it's because of the CEO itself. I still have half my HIMS. I sold half at 62. And I still have the other half. S&P right there, 661. Losing 662, just like that again. Losing 662. Down red on the day. Or not red, but close to going red. I'd rather buy Oscar. Yeah, Oscar is not as much of a growth play as HIMS, and Oscar has some more regulatory issues. But then again, I can't say Oscar has regulatory issues because HIMS, every time Novo issues a patent or lawsuit or something happens with compounders, I did not know when I bought HIMS, when most of you guys were like, when HIMS was at the height of its mania back in June, and like every day in this chat, it would just be HIMS, 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 HIMS. You guys, really got me to look at it. I did not know the amount of legal shit this company has to deal with. And I should have. And this is why you don't buy stuff unless you really actually do some work on it. Like, I didn't realize that, like, they're not only in a highly regulated industry, they're in a regulated industry where all the other big pharma companies hate what they're doing with the compounders. And if you want to, go on the ride for the next 10 years of thinking HIMS is going to take on big pharma, be my guest. But like, I kind of don't want to be on that ride. I don't care enough about that ride. Like, there's plenty of other rides that I would like to go on versus that type of ride. And if I just really understood that, I would have never bought in. I'm sorry. I just not to be bearish on the company. It's just like, I don't want to deal with that. And it goes to show how much it's important to just do some due diligence. Webull right here, 1139. That's down about 3%. Thoughts on CoreWeave here? Look, I like CoreWeave. Jose likes CoreWeave, but I'm not sleeping well at night buying CoreWeave. I'd rather buy more NVIDIA at the end of the day. I don't think it's bad to buy CoreWeave here. But I know that if NVIDIA gives me a dip, like, I can buy it sustainably and hold on to it. CoreWeave, they lose a contract. This happens, that happens. You just never know. The funny thing about this AI sector, though, and this is what I was talking about with Steve yesterday, is like CoreWeave, Nebius, all these companies they should be programmed to go higher in value over the next 5 years if you think NVIDIA goes to 10 trillion. So when you say Amit, what do you think about CoreWeave? I'm like, well, I don't like it. I'd rather buy NVIDIA. But if NVIDIA goes to 10 trillion, CoreWeave's definitely not going to be just a $67 billion company. Like it will have to go high. Like there's no way that entire ecosystem, Broadcom, Micron, SMCI, all those guys don't get a bid. So the real question is, which one out of all of them do you like? But I don't think the question is, will you get screwed on one of them? Because over the next 5 years, if you think NVIDIA is 10 trillion, I think they all have to probably go up. But I'd rather just buy more NVIDIA. VIX is going back up. S&P going back down. Dude, we haven't had a Friday like this in a while, where it's literally a roller coaster for the first 30 minutes. Usually we get a trend and we kind of stay flat in that trend and see what happens. This is up, down, up, down, up, down across the board. Nebius, what do we have on Nebius right here? 117, still down 4. TSM had a great earnings yesterday. TSM, that's green at least. That's holding on. And silver is still getting hit. All right, we got some data on the jobs. Let me pull this up. Let's see if we can get some coverage on that. Ten-year back above 4%. Okay, that's not the best either. Let's pull up some of this job data. But yeah, 10-year is back above 4% right here.
Blackout period next week ahead of its meeting the week after. So maybe here are some of the other sources they're looking at to tell us what's happening on jobs, or at least investors are looking at. The Indeed data. Indeed is the job posting site.
Okay.
So it turns out there is, what we're looking at here in the Indeed data is interest in holiday jobs, and that is trending higher if you look at this year. The purple line, 2025. What does that tell us? More people.
Okay, there it is. Yeah,
there it is. See,
yep.
as you can see,
It's
there's
short
always
line.
interest in holiday jobs around this going into the holiday season, right? Temporary work. And then usually that tails off. That's normal, right? Seasonality thing. But what the purple line is showing is that there's more interest this year in holiday jobs.
What does that mean?
Looking, that temporary work.
Is that good or bad?
Well, it's a bad sign for the labor market, right? Because it's more people wanting to either pick up more jobs, work temporarily. I mean, when they're out looking for jobs, it means they don't have jobs and they're looking for other sources of income. So that is something we're watching.
Okay.
We've reported a lot on the slowdown in the jobs market. We have no idea what the September report looks like. But that's potentially a sign.
And what else you got in your alternative data sources here, Sarah?
This is very alt. So this is the Google search. This is from Nick Colas.
Okay.
And Data Trek. And here he's looking at Google search numbers of finding a job and new job. And what he found there is actually they hit 20-year highs, those Google searches, which tells us something about what people are Googling right now, which is how to find a job and getting a new job. We have not seen jobless claims tick higher. That is people filing for unemployment claims, which would signal layoffs, but we have not received the data in recent weeks. So
I mean, that, again, we're left with, and you are, frankly, I don't have to deal with this stuff, but it's key for you. Like, you search, you could also argue a really good jobs market where people think there are other opportunities as a reason to put in, hey, I'm looking for a different job or a new job, right?
Well, we haven't typically seen that during, if you look at some of the Google searches, that you don't usually see big searches for new jobs. But agree, like job switchers happen sometimes when wage growth is a little higher. That, sure, could be the case, but we haven't seen the switchers' wage growth numbers move higher. They've sort of been lower in the ADP report, for instance. But yeah, we really don't.
We're flying
don't know
blind.
Exactly. We're flying blind.
What do you think?
The data.
You got a feel for me on this?
Well, the feel is that we're sort of in a low job growth economy. We haven't.
The feel is the same, I think, based on what JPOW said, which is low hire, low fire. If this third-party data is accurate about jobless claims, which is good, but I think the market's more concerned with China and everything else that's going on right now. Again, back to green on the S&P. This has been a wild day of swings back and forth. Tesla is holding on to a little 1%. NVIDIA 182.20. 182.20. Grab still holding 550. It did get to 565. Google 251. I mean, it literally looks like it's just going to go up and down, up and down. Yeah, what did you guys say on the poll? 51% of you said red. Okay, so 50-50, but the majority still said red. Intel's up a little bit. Yeah, I mean, look, all I can say is it is way better. Intel up 2.5. It is way better than freaking 2 a.m. 2 a.m. was disgusting, bro. 2 a.m. was so bad, and like no one had a reason for why, but it feels like I'll take this any day of the week. I'll take this to end out the month. If the rest of October ends like this, I'll take that over what we saw at 2 a.m. 2 a.m. was ugly. Silver, 4% decline. Look at that. 51.87. Is the silver momentum finally slowing down? Is that happening? I mean, dude, commodities have had a crazy run. Silver, copper, freaking gold. Like, I don't know. Them taking a breather would not be crazy. It's just one of those things, right? Which is like, all right, if you think we're a straight up bull market, then you got to go through some of these days, some of this volatility to get there at the end, which would be, whatever target you have on what this bull market ends up being. But it's also like a lot of this stuff doesn't make sense. Gold goes to the moon, treasury yields come down, stocks go up like crazy, then go down based on a tweet, then go up based on a tweet. And I know that's been the story of the whole year, but like that at this stage of the year, after 2 great months, August and September, where we should have had some dips, like it's just a lot of wonky stuff that has happened. And then you got a government shutdown, so no one really knows the data on what's going on. I mean, it's hard to definitively make a bear case or a bull case here. Then you got this meme stock nonsense. That meme stock ETF down another 2.8% right there. Palantir 179.51. S&P still 0.05. Reddit 0.36. And then Hoodie 1.6 as well. Tanner says, slept in. What did I miss? Bro, this guy. Do you wake up every day at 10 a.m., Tanner? Do you just wake up and ignore all of the freaking pre-market volatility? It's actually pretty good for your mental health, to be honest. Even Nate was up at freaking 4 a.m. and he saw Nebius, and Nebius was at 111. He's like, bro, who the hell is selling Nebius at 4 a.m.? What's going on? Like, what is happening here? This thing was at 140 4 days ago. Tom Lee just tweeted. Oh boy, what did Tom Lee say? What did Tom Lee say? He said, buy the dip. That's one of the most surprising things in the world, to be honest. He said, I understand why markets are wary. China-U.S. tensions, major deleveraging last week, cockroach fears on private credit. October is the month we tend to see. But sentiment is negative, which is good to be contrarian. Only 22% of fund managers are beating their benchmark, aka they're going to chase. We talked about the stat for the past couple of weeks now that could create a chase. Buy the effing dip is our take. All right, Mr. Tom Lee. That's his argument. That is his argument. Buy the dip. I mean, look, I can't say I don't think a lot of people disagree. Like at the end of the day, and we've talked about this for the past week now, like, is there something structural that has changed in the economy? Not really. Is this China thing a big deal? Not really. Is regional banks the big crisis that the market was looking for? Based on everything we looked at over the past 24 hours, not really. Based on the regional banks that reported this morning, not really. Have earnings been phenomenal? Yes. So what's the issue? I think the issue is the markets got exhausted. And I think that's what Tom Lee's basically saying. He's like, look, the markets are looking for whatever reason they can, whether it's China, US, or soybeans or whatever, to like go down. But that's not an actual structural change in the underlying economy. The only structural argument you can make is credit. And again, one regional bank saying there's a credit issue, and they didn't even say there's a credit issue. They just had a 50 million charge off. That can't be the structural reason. So then what is the actual reason, right? Like, even put in the chat, what is the structural reason why you shouldn't buy the dip? I'm not saying people should buy the dip today. I'm just saying, like, if you were to deploy capital at prices that are way better than what you could get 2 weeks ago, outside of just purely wanting to stay in cash, what is the structural reason you wouldn't do so? I can't think of a major reason. AMD with a green candle right there, 234. I don't think Venezuela is the reason, bro. I don't think that would be it. Can you just discuss Sam's point of not wanting to buy the dip? You guys got to remember, Sam is more of a risk-averse type of investor, and he's been very public about this. Like, Sam hedges all the time. Sam is not the type of guy to just go crazy buying the dip. Sam, I think, sold a bunch of different stocks the other day and like took some profits. Sam also has a wife and two young kids. You know, he just did a Disney World vacation. Everyone's financial situation is different. And, I don't know his portfolio size, but he might have a portfolio to the point where he doesn't feel like he needs to get more allocated into the market. So I wouldn't use one perspective as a reason to make it an underlying perspective. It's more so him just, he's very quick to sell a covered call or get out of a leap. He'll initiate a position, get out of it the next week. I mean, that's what I've noticed about Sam. And that's just how he invests. Like, he does not want to hold on for the ride if he thinks things are getting a little weird. So yeah, I think I haven't heard a piece of analysis on the structural problem in the underlying economy that would say stocks aren't in a more obvious buy the dip situation. The only other argument you can make is that we're going to decouple with China. But then this morning, Trump is like, no, we're not going to even do the 100% tariffs. That was the reason the markets fell last week. And China's foreign minister came out yesterday and said, we want to work with the US. So that's not the structural problem. It's not the regional bank stuff. It's more so, I agree with his last point right here. October is the month we tend to see. October ends up being volatile. Tesla going green. Tesla 437. All right, you're getting some of these stocks. Oh, S&P high of day. Can we break 663? Can we break through? Maybe. Can we break through? Structurally, there's no money with 50% of the people out there. Fair point. However, we didn't even check money market funds yesterday. Let's do it right now together. I was going to talk about money market funds being where the money is. Decrease, $17 billion decrease yesterday. 7.37 trillion. So my response to people who don't have money is there's money. It's out there. And eventually it's going to find its way to come into taking a little bit more risk than it's taking right now. But you got a decrease last week of 17 billion, which is a drop in the bucket, but at least it's a decrease versus an increase. Still 7 trillion on the sidelines. S&P, do we break 663? We just broke 663. Okay. Maybe we're making a trend. HIMS is getting destroyed right now as the market's going higher. Goodness gracious. 10% on HIMS, 53.13. That's getting hit. MicroStrategy's up 1. NVIDIA's up half. Tesla's up 2. Palantir's up 1.3. Grab's back above 560. AMD is up. And then S&P, if we can get 665, that would really maybe create some stronger momentum. But we got to see $8 million flow of puts on gold. $12 million worth of calls sold on gold. All right, people are getting bearish gold. Some of the option traders are getting bearish. Selling 12 million worth of calls and buying 8 million worth of puts. Yeah, you're getting some premium coming in that's a bit more bearish. S&P high of day 663.50. Where's gold right now? Let's see. Gold was at 42. Yeah, still down. Gold and silver still getting hit. All the gold and silver ETFs are dropping right now. Well, it's probably because of that option flow. Yeah, GLD. That one's also down. Tesla's still 437. Intel still going up. How about the rare earths? Intel, wow, 4% on Intel. I'll look if there's a headline, but Intel's doing okay. Regionals, look at that. Green across the board. Huntington, KRE, Truist, Zion's, all the look at Zion getting 6%. It lost 15% yesterday. That's not a horrible, somewhat recovery from yesterday. Rare earths are still red except CRML. That one goes down. I mean, that one goes up. And then the Bitcoin miners are still all red, even though they're trying to recover as well. VIX down 8%. Okay, that's a bigger move on the VIX. That's what we needed to see. We needed to see the VIX get down to that 8 to 10% level. S&P again, continuing to get to highs of days. VIX, low of days as of so far. Hopefully that can continue. Oh, shit. Hold on. It is Tanner's birthday today. It is Tanner's birthday, right? Or am I wrong? Hold on. This is why this guy probably slept in. Or am I wrong? Hold on. We're going to call this guy right now. We got to know. Is it his birthday? I think it is his birthday, right? It is his birthday. There it is. It's his birthday. It is. All right. Happy birthday, Mr. Tanner. Bro. Happy birthday, bro.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So for your birthday, you got to sleep in and didn't have to deal with the 2 a.m. trauma that we had to deal with.
I still don't even know what happened.
Dude, no one does. Literally no one does. So wait, how old are you turning today? 20, 27?
28.
Oh, 28. Okay, yeah. Same with me.
I'm like a week older than you.
Okay, so yeah, how do you feel about being 28?
I don't know. It's not really a milestone birthday. So the same. I'm waiting for 30 though. That'll be different.
Okay. Are you doing anything with your girl tonight? Are you going anywhere or just chilling in the house?
Probably not. No. Just
Okay.
chilling.
I love it. Well, dude,
I'll be working.
You'll be working. That's what we do. That is what we do. I forgot last night. I didn't even realize it was your birthday. That's awesome, dude. So, oh, that's great. Happy birthday to you, man. Deeply, deeply appreciate you as a friend. I'm happy we're on this whole content journey together. And last question: Should I buy SoFi? It's like, yeah, I love you, bro, but like, can you give me some financial advice?
I think that this will be the greatest quarter they've ever seen. I don't know what you should do with your money. The stock doesn't seem to align with what the stock does or what the company actually performs at. But I think this is going to be a blowout quarter. Absolute blowout.
All right, I love it. I'm putting Tanner's YouTube right here in the chat. If you haven't watched his video on SoFi yesterday, you definitely should. He's thinking 1 million members comes out for Q3.
I had a person correct me online saying that I was using net new members and not, before churn. So they corrected me to say, hey, it's going to actually be higher than 1 million.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be pretty incredible. Well,
let's see. Fingers crossed.
All right, Tanner, appreciate you. Enjoy the birthday, man, and have a good one. Yeah, we'll talk to you later.
Yeah.
Later.
Peace.
Dude, Tanner and I, we are becoming unks. We are becoming straight up unks as we get into our 30s. So S&P losing 663, but holding 662 again. Up and down across the board. Tesla right there, 439. Tesla getting a little bit of love. Grab getting a little bit of love. ASTS up a little bit. Rocket Lab up a little bit. Disney's up 1%. AST bounced from 82. NVIDIA high of day, or it was at 183, just below 183. But yeah, we are losing 663. Let's head over to Dan Niles. Let's see what he's got to say about everything going on.
At it in total, and you look at the 4 biggest banks in the world that reported in the U.S., Bank of America, J.P. Morgan, Wells Fargo, and then you look at the 2 biggest investment banks, Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, combined, that's 11 trillion in assets. Every single one of them had revenue and EPS forecasts go up for December. Every single one of them was generally constructive on what they were seeing in terms of consumer strength. So yes, do you have some issues with fraud? 100%. Are there probably more? Definitely. But in general, which is what you have to look at, things seem very good on that front. So I don't think this is going to turn out to be something systemic like you saw in March of 23, or obviously when Lehman Brothers failed. And so you're seeing this morning, I think, you saw an upgrade of Jefferies. You've seen, Western Alliance as well as Zion's. they're up, I think, 4 to 6% last
Yep,
time.
you got
I
them right
looked.
next to your face right now. Yep, we just saw
Okay,
them.
great.
Exactly. Good call. There.
Perfect.
You had it exactly right, Dan. And there's Jeffries as well. All right.
Yeah,
So what? It's rate cuts essentially that are going to just keep this rally going.
Yeah, I think that's it. And really, you've seen that since COVID, right? Like, unless you think a global pandemic is wonderful, the S&P was up 14% that year. And why was that? Well, you jammed about half of GDP into the economy over the period of 2 years in terms of stimulus. And so you're going to see a rate cut on October 29th. I think you'll see another one on December 10th. The Fed has decided whatever inflation metrics they see, it's going to be transitory, just like they did in 2021 when the market S&P finished up 27%, despite inflation surging from 1.3%, I think, to start the year to 7% by the end of the year. And then you've got strong Q3 earnings. Don't forget, these companies all gave guidance for Q3 in July of last year, when it wasn't that clear that we would be in as good a shape in terms of the economy as we are right now. So the bar was set really low. And then the AI data you're getting from the likes of TSMC or ASML, they all still seem very positive. And more importantly, with regards to the AI data, you've had some very compute-intensive apps released recently between Nano Banana for Google, and more importantly, Sora 2, which helps you generate video.
So same argument by Dan Niles that earnings are strong, rate cuts are coming, 183 back for NVIDIA, even though the S&P is not at high of days. So NVIDIA and Tesla getting to high of days with the S&P lagging. But his argument is the same about regional banks, which is like they're not that big of a concern. And the rate cut, by the way, rate cuts help the regional banks because the regional banks are, they don't have the types of balance sheets like a JP Morgan. And, rate cuts in general help every bank. Especially with their AOCI losses. But if you're a regional and you have not as much leverage as a JP Morgan when it comes to giving out loans, the cost of capital coming down really does help. So even if there is some issue with regionals, it's not going to be something that rate cuts won't at least somewhat help with. NVIDIA right there, 183 on the day. Tesla 440. Yeah, maybe this is also setting up for a nice Santa Claus rally. Maybe that's another thing that could end up playing out right here. Ultimately we're gonna have to see, but it'll be one of those things that's important. Let me pull this up right here. I think my screen froze for a second, but you guys should still be able to hear me. Let's see if we have any other headlines coming in. Gold is still going down. BMNR below 49. NVIDIA really making a move right there. Look at that green candle. Yeah, actually getting a pump. Bitmine 49.26. That one's still going to hit. Is Misty a buy right here? Misty has been a disaster. It's because MicroStrategy has been a disaster. So no, I think it's a buy if you believe MicroStrategy reverses. If it doesn't, you stay the hell away. Because unless MicroStrategy reverses, you're likely not going to see too much momentum. But that is kind of the core issue that we're having right now. Tesla 440. Okay, so Tesla holds up to be green. I don't know what the headline is on Tesla. Is there a headline on Tesla? I mean, okay, so there's no headline on Tesla. There is this video last night, though, that probably, I don't know if it's helping the stock today, but definitely a good video to see.
How's it going?
Good, how's it going?
Is this your office?
This is the rocket factory, the SpaceX rocket factory at Starbase, Texas.
I just want everybody in the world to hear that you said I build bigger things than you do.
You do. The data centers are very enormous.
It all started in 2016. I announced the world's first AI supercomputer,
DGX.
The DGX-1.
The most advanced computer that anyone has ever built.
It was just crickets.
Crickets.
Except for one person.
I was like,
and it was you.
That sounds like a great idea.
So I built another DGX.
Great.
And this thing is mighty. This is the new DGX Spark.
So that's the whole thing? Wow.
5 times the computational power of DGX-1. 40 watts, not 4,000.
40, wow.
DGX-1 to DGX Spark. It's so fun hanging out. Thanks for having me.
Welcome to Starbase.
I can't wait to see my first rocket launch. It was just incredible.
That's pretty cool to see. I don't know if that's necessarily changing the dynamics of Tesla, but it is nice to see that right there. Tesla 438. And he is with Jensen. Yeah, dude, Elon does make Jensen look much smaller. How tall is Jensen? How tall is Jensen Huang? 5'9". Okay, Elon's 6'2". He definitely looks like a tank compared to Jensen. But there you go. 438 right there on Tessie. Ondas, drone stock, this one. Are they down for the week? Yeah, look at it. I mean, dude, this thing's down 21% this week. A lot of these high flyers, guys, they're taking it on the chin this week. And I'm not saying that everything else isn't, but some of these guys are really, just taking a bit more of a beating. And I think that's okay, especially when these names were up 5% every day for the past month for literally no reason. Like, it's okay for them to take a breather. That's normal. D-Wave down 8%. D-Wave's now down 18% this week. Is that the case? Well, in the past 2 days. It was down 10% yesterday, 18% or 8% today. So 18% over the past 2 days. Could they reverse? Yeah, I think they could, but it's not horrible. Also, if you're an owner of these stocks, I think you're also okay with them just taking a breather. Like, it's annoying for Hood to go from 150 to 129, but I also think it's healthy for it to take a breather and not go to the moon. I mean, like, it didn't really deserve 150 outside of the S&P inclusion, which was awesome. I think it deserved, closer to 130 where it's at right now on that. Maybe 140, but 150 is just like, that's just pure hype at that point. Like, I can't justify that as a shareholder. So you need earnings. You need that earnings to come through to make it happen. Nebius down 14% in a week. Yeah, dude. Again, Nebius, amazing company, but did they deserve to go from 70 to 140 in a month? Like, I know they got a big deal from Microsoft, but is that reasonable? I mean, like, some of this stuff's just not as reasonable. I think that's okay. Yeah, the Bitcoin whale didn't actually go long. Tom Lee actually ended up sharing a fake tweet, and it's not his fault. It's just sometimes these tweets don't end up being as accurate. That Bitcoin whale that we thought went long, the same guy who shorted Bitcoin right before Trump did the Truth Social China post, yeah, that turned out to be fake. And so, unfortunately, that was not true. Also, the 3 p.m. announcement yesterday was about freaking in vitro fertilization, not even the stock. So whatever announcement that was supposed to happen yesterday that everyone was prepared for, it ended up literally being a nothing burger in the context of the market. Here's an update on a shutdown. Let's go to this.
At this time, there are some bipartisan talks going on, but even Republican senators who tell me that they want to work with Democrats on their big ask, remember that's extending those Affordable Care Act tax credits, they tell me that they don't see a firm working group really coalescing. I also spoke with a couple Democrats, including Senator Chris Coons. He said part of the difference this time is that even if Democrats and Republicans come to an agreement, as they have in the past on things like spending bills, the Trump administration has previously undermined them, as they did when they canceled billions in funding that lawmakers approved.
There's been a loss of trust between Senate Democrats and the administration and the House because of what's happened over the last 6 to 9 months in terms of respecting bipartisan spending bills that were signed into law last year.
Meanwhile, Republican leaders have also been in lockstep in saying no negotiations on health care until the government reopens. Senator John Cornyn, he's a Republican, and he's been part of groups tackling immigration and gun reform in the past. He's now saying that Democrats, including Senator Chuck Schumer, seem more comfortable being in a shutdown.
I think he's afraid to reach some sort of deal like we typically do in these circumstances because he'll be attacked by his progressive radical base.
with a lack of trust and both sides taking in that it doesn't seem like a shutdown is going to be over anytime soon. Senate, as you said, out today, not planning to come back until Monday. Meanwhile, the House has now been out for almost a month, and they have no planned return until the shutdown is over. David?
So, Emily, of the two issues, one, the Affordable Care Act and the subsidies, which are going to go away, or the fact that Congress has appropriated money that the administration will not spend, which is at the fore now? I feel like, it was all about the Affordable Care Act, but we've been hearing a lot more about that other issue of late.
And I think, David, that's because when it comes to Congress, I mean, really, you hear about these shutdown fights every year, but behind the scenes, there really is bipartisan negotiations that go on throughout the year about exactly how they're going to fund the government. I mean, right now we're talking about a stopgap. When it comes to actually how the government will be funded for next year, fiscal 2026, there is a bunch of bipartisan agreements that have already been done, already on paper. And so having that rescissions process and the White House kind of undermining that previously bipartisan agreement, that has caused a lot of kind of internal concern. But I think when it comes to messaging, most Americans don't know what a rescission package is, but they do know what their health care is. They do know what their insurance premium is. And they do know that it's going to go up if we don't see these tax credits have some sort of extension.
All right. So there is no resolve on what's going on with this shutdown based on what she's saying. By the way, S&P losing pretty much everything that it had in the past 10 minutes, dude. I don't think we've had a day like this in a while. Up and down, up and down, up and down. New all-time, or not new all-time high, new intraday high, new intraday low, new intraday high. BM&R getting wrecked, 48.64. Ethereum getting wrecked, 37 hundo. Bitcoin continuing to get wrecked. It was just at 106 10 minutes ago, back down to 104. It's one of those days, folks. It's one of those days. I mean, what else do you do on a day like this? Honestly, what else do you do other than just like forget about it and like, all right, whatever. We've had a lot of exciting days in the market. We've to the upside. We've also had a lot of days to the downside where we kind of know why there's downside. Today's one of those days where I think we might end out flat, hopefully. And whether we're up or down, I mean, it might not be conclusive in any narrative. It might just be a day in October where we were volatile. And that's it. Yeah, June says, good day to take a day away from the market. Yeah, dude. I mean, sometimes it's healthy to not think about this shit. I think that is something we don't talk about enough, the mental health of investors, all of us here. This is real hard-earned money that we're deploying on our own, right? Most of us like doing our own due diligence to figure out how to make this money turn into something to help our families, which is, I think, the reason most of us invest at the end of the day. Like, if you had to boil it down, I think 95% of people here would say you invest for your family, first and foremost. In some way or another, one of your like top 3 goals as an investor is to be able to return something to your family. And that, that's a mental burden, because when you lose money, you almost feel like you're letting your family down to an extent, right? And it's like, that's not true. So it's like, you have to be able to manage the highs with the lows. Yep, saving all I can for my family, 100% for my family. I mean, I'm sure some people, are doing it just purely for themselves, which is fine. But I think the majority of people, they want to get some level of financial freedom, or, you want to be able to do something with the capital one day that affects other people that are close to you. And, that's why most people invest. S&P 500 right there, 661.20. I'm doing it for the drugs. I'm doing it for the dopamine. Gonna buy a Lambo for the fam, but only I can drive it. Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. I don't think I would ever buy a Lambo, bro. The only actual money I've spent on a car in my life that's like more than what the average car would cost is a Tesla. And that's because it's a freaking Tesla. But I don't think I would ever get like a luxury car or something like that. I'm just not a car guy. But I understand people who like it. For my snowmobile. I do it because I'm addicted to being a degen. I mean, look, we're all staring at candles every day for 8 hours a day. Like, that there's definitely that degen in us. Yeah, 1030 slam. We might be getting that as well. Let's take a look at the heat map again. But like, I do think it is a thing, bro. Like, it's like one Trump tweet about soybeans and your day is messed up. You have some green. It's flat, but you do have some green. It's like a legit thing, bro. It's like you're having a good day, one tweet, and then you're just like thinking about it the whole day. And it's like you can't be that deep in it sometimes. But then again, it's hard to say. It's almost like work-life balance, right? It's like you can't be like, if you're building a business, you can't be that obsessed with the business because then you're going to miss out on other parts of life. But it's also like, if you're not that obsessed with the business, are you going to be able to build a good business? And it's S&P goes red. It's almost the same thing here with investing. Sometimes you do have to be obsessed with it. And it doesn't change based on the amount of wealth you have. It really doesn't. I mean, from the people I've talked to that have amassed more wealth, I mean, they check their accounts every day. They take a look at it multiple times a day. Like, that shit doesn't change just because you have more money. It becomes even, more compelling to see the numbers go up or down. So once you're in the game, once you're in the matrix, you're in the matrix. You're in it. And you got to be able to take your own breaks. Like, for me, it's Saturday. Saturday, I legit try to not think about the market at all. And last week, Saturday was after the 3% drawdown on Friday. So, it was hard not to think about it. But I really do try to say Saturday, I'm not going to even try to think about the stock market. Matt said, I'm going to get a bagel and coffee. Does anyone want anything? Matt, go to Dutch Bros. You got to pump the stock. You got to pump the stock. What did everyone eat for breakfast today? Put in the chat. What did you guys eat for breakfast? I had nothing because I don't eat breakfast. What do people eat? Let's see some good breakfasts, bro. Dude, I went to this like diner near me the other day, and it was so bad. Like, I'm kind of like, I'm like making a budget for money that I know I'm going to lose, trying out new food spots near the apartment, and just telling myself, look, if I lose $50 on this meal, then at least it's a lesson for me to never go back to the space. Like, I went to a pizza shop the other day, disgusting pizza. And this is New Jersey. I'm like, how is the pizza that bad? I'm like, well, that was a $10 lesson to never go back to that spot. And so I went to a breakfast spot in last week, I think on Sunday. And I was just like, this is like, it was a pancake spot. And I was like, all right, let's get some good pancakes. And the pancakes tasted like, you expect a certain type of feeling from a pancake when you go to a nice spot. And I was like, this feels like a cafeteria pancake when I was in high school. So you gotta take some of those hits when you're going to new places. Everyone's saying coffee, bro. Does everyone here just drink coffee? Coffee and toast, cold brew, pistachios. I ate red candles. Well, you're continuing to eat the red candles. Red Bull. Okay, Red Bull for breakfast is wild. Red Bull for breakfast is wild. But it probably gives you some energy. Tomato cheese sandwich, eggs, pancake, coffee, PB&J. Jersey has terrible food. Jersey does not have terrible food. It's just a couple spots near me just weren't that good. Jersey is, dude, New York has some of the best food on the planet. Jersey's, Amazon, by the way, 213. Jersey is just a rendition of a lot of the culture that comes in New York with food. So I think there is decent food here. Peanut butter sandwich, then pre-workout for the gym. Indian food, bananas. 8 cups of coffee, not kidding. Okay, some of you guys are being ridiculous, bro. Like, I can barely finish a couple sips of coffee if I ever make it. Like, 8 cups of coffee is wild. Do we have any other headlines? Let's see. Okay, someone said we want to see the MNAV on MicroStrategy and how it's changed. So let's try to do the math right here. So we'll calculate the MNAV right now. MicroStrategy is 640,000 Bitcoin. 640,250, is that the number? Yeah, 250. So what's the current price of Bitcoin? Current price of Biddy is 105. Let's just do 105. Okay, when you multiply those two numbers, 640,000 times 105,000, They show the MNAV on their website. Oh, why am I even doing all this? Oh shit, they do. Oh, that's okay. Dude, see, this is what BitMine needs to do. I'm so used to doing this with BitMine. BitMine needs to do this shit. Like, I love Tom Lee, but he needs to just give us the stats immediately. 1.43. Okay, 1.4. So it's still holding a 1.4 MNAV. I mean, not horrible. But obviously Bitcoin needs to go higher. US M2 money supply reached a new record high, 22.2 trillion. Okay, so that means liquidity is in the system, which is why it's so surprising to see Bitcoin at these levels. I mean, guys, could you imagine? Or let's do a poll right here. Let's do our own freaking poly market right here. You guys have been more accurate than not in the chat. All right, so here's the question, okay? Here is the freaking question. I think some of you guys already know what the question is going to be. Do you think Bitcoin goes below 100K before end of year? Do we see it lose 6 figures, bro? That is the question. It's only 5,000 away from doing it. And to be honest, it might be a good flush out if that does happen. Just like in general. But I think that hurts Hoodie, that hurts Coinbase, that hurts everything that's tied to it. Hoodie right there, down 2%. 50-50, 52% yes, 48% no. It could even happen this weekend. Yeah, it could happen this weekend. Where's Open Door, bro? Is Open Door still holding 7? Open Door is holding 7 by a thread, bro. Does anyone do people care about Open Door anymore? Are we done with Open Door? Was this just like a 2-month little fling, or are people like? Is anyone here buying the dip on Open Door? Does anyone believe they're going to turn things around and they're going to get a margin and the real estate market's coming back? I mean, I think the chatter on Twitter has died down substantially, like substantially. And, you know, that's the thing about some of these momentum stocks. When the momentum fades, the audience fades, the attention fades. No one really cares that much anymore. There's nothing fundamental there. Like, it is really sad when it happens. I'm not saying that's going to happen to Open Door. I'm just saying what I'm seeing is not that many people care about it anymore. A couple of you saying you're still holding, but not caring that much. Okay, so that one's still down on the day. What about Better? What about Hut? What about the other Eric Jackson names? Better is up 1.5. Hut is down 2. And then Sana, that was the biotech he was talking about. That one's down 4. So a lot of these names relatively flat. SoFi still 26.70. And then the S&P, 2 cents away from going red again. It's pretty wild, dude. Pretty freaking wild. Meme ETF is down 3% on the day as well. We do have some new clips of our boy Tom Lee. He was with Cathie Wood yesterday talking more about ETH. And this is his explanation on why he thinks ETH is going to flip Bitcoin.
71. In our chairman's message last month, we addressed how gold versus Wall Street grew post 1971. So 1971 was when Nixon formally withdrew the U.S. from the gold standard. The immediate beneficiary was there was demand and a market to own gold. And so people would say that was your, first implication. But what we wrote about and talked about in our message was that in 1971, the dollar became fully synthetic because it was no longer backed by anything. And so there was risk that the world would go off the dollar standard. So in stepped Wall Street to create products to propagate the future of Wall Street, including, and we listed, I think, 14 products that emerged over the next decade, from money market funds to credit to mortgage-backed securities to futures, etc. And dollar dominance by the end of that period went from 27% of GDP terms, but to 57% of central bank reserves and 80% of financial transaction quotes. So Wall Street was created products that made the dollar dominant, and the market cap of equities today is 40 trillion compared to 2 trillion for gold. So in other words, gold is 5% of all available assets. And so in 2025, we think everything is now becoming synthetic or tokenized, sorry, not synthetic. So as we move not just dollars onto the blockchain, which is stable coins, but we'll move stocks and real estate, dollar dominance is going to be the opportunity of Ethereum.
And that's where he also thinks that ETH flips Bitcoin, because Bitcoin as a store of value, Tom Lee's pretty bullish on, but Ethereum as the new blockchain of choice for tokenizing everything, not just the dollar back in 1971, that changes the entire dynamic of how Wall Street thinks of Ethereum. And look, Devin Ryan, one of the best analysts on the street yesterday, he initiated a $50 price target on SBET. And I could not believe that a traditional Wall Street dude is calling for $50 on SBET. SBET's trading below its NAV, if I'm not wrong. So forget SBET versus BM&R. The point is, you got Wall Street guys, B. Riley initiated $90 for BM&R. The fact that they're thinking ETH is going to matter, probably because they're talking to a lot of their Wall Street buddies that are saying, yeah, ETH's real, Tom Lee's right about this, is forcing them to say, all right, well, our clients are probably going to need exposure, and these ETH treasuries might be the best way to get that exposure. So although the stock has kind of sucked over the past 2 weeks because Ethereum has sucked, that thesis, I think, is very intact. And, we don't know how it's going to play out, but I think one could argue that it will play out more to the upside than not. But we're going to have to see. We're going to have to see long-term how this actually ends up making a run. Bowl of cereal, thank you for the $5 super chat. Hi, Mitt, thank you for all you do. Does this dip make you want to sell HUD shares? Could you share your take and price target? Look, if I didn't sell at 150, I'm not selling at 130. Again, I really do have a 10-year horizon on HUD. So, I mean, I'm the wrong person to ask because I'm not selling. Selling covered calls, I think, is not a crazy idea here. If you don't want to be massively, if you don't want HUD to be like a cornerstone of the portfolio, and maybe you're in it just for a trade, then sure. Because by the end of the year, if we don't get a bull rally, HUD's not going to make that big of a move. But if we do, HUD's going to be one of the best performing stocks. So it's like, it really depends on where you think the end of year kind of plays out. But I think that would be the most important thing. Yeah, he also discussed staking. I don't know why they're not staking yet, but eventually when they do start staking, there's going to be a lot more revenue coming in, which will allow them to buy more Ethereum. But again, I don't even think it's about the staking. They have the money to buy ETH. ETH's not going up, right? Like Tom Lee can raise $50 billion tomorrow to probably buy more Ethereum. It's more so a question of like Ethereum performing. If that does happen, then I think that would be important. Amid, they're just trying to get investment banking fees from SBET, hence covering research. So I would agree with you if it was just a random analyst, but not Devin Ryan. Devin Ryan is one of the better analysts on Wall Street. And so, yes, I agree. A lot of these investment firms just try to collect management fees or research fees by covering a name. But I do think Devin Ryan, I've met him a couple of times. I've followed his journey for the past 3 years. I don't think he's the type of guy to do that. I mean, dude, he told me that he got calls from hedge funds when Robinhood was $8 telling him to initiate a sell rating. And he told them to, he gave them the middle finger because he knew at $8, like it was undervalued. So I don't know. I think him initiating it definitely gets my attention a bit more than the other guys. Amazon right there, 213. Well, that one's also red. I made thoughts on the PayPal $300 trillion stablecoin accident yesterday. Actually, we have some coverage on that. I didn't even fully get the story, so let's get some coverage here. But yeah, I mean, for those that heard the story, it was kind of wild to have a $300 trillion mistake. But that's kind of what happened.
Has the story for us, can explain to us what exactly happened here. Mackenzie.
Hey, David. So PayPal's big crypto bet is its dollar peg stablecoin. It's called PYUSD. And as you said, it briefly created $300 trillion out of thin air this week without any reserves to back it. Now, there aren't even enough real dollars in the system to cover that. It was more than 100 times all the U.S. cash in circulation. Now, in terms of what happened here, the mistake was made by Paxos, which is PYUSD's issuer, during an internal transfer. It showed up publicly on the Ethereum blockchain and then was reversed about 20 minutes later after on-chain observers flagged it. Now, fat finger mistakes, they've happened before. Tether once minted $5 billion by accident.
That's a $300 trillion fat finger. This is the first time I'm hearing the story and getting any real coverage on it. I mean, bro, like, as much as I believe this whole stablecoin thesis makes sense, and I think it really will be a tailwind for Ethereum, you can make a $300 trillion fat finger mistake. That's a little aggressive, bro.
And Citigroup mistakenly sent $81 trillion in a single transaction last year. But this incident comes after Congress passed the Genius Act, the first U.S. stablecoin law, which is raising questions about why that framework didn't prevent it. Analysts found that PYUSD's smart contract was part of the problem. It gave a single wallet unlimited minting rights. That means no rate limits, no multi-signature protections. And as for the fallout, the token briefly lost its dollar peg. One major crypto lending platform froze all PYUSD activity as a precaution, and the crypto market started to sell off. Now, that said, Paxos did flag that no customer funds were affected. Still, New York's financial regulator says it is reviewing the incident and is in contact with both Paxos and PayPal. No word from PayPal on this. Their shares down 5% since last week, though they are turning positive after the open. Sarah?
Growing pains, I guess. Mackenzie, thank you. Mackenzie Sagalis.
Bro, can we all start a stablecoin and make? We don't need 300 trillion. We don't even need a trillion. We don't even need a billion, bro. Can we just mint like a couple million of stablecoin for us? Can we all do that? Is that possible somehow? We don't need to be that aggressive. No one's going to notice a couple million, right? 300 trillion, okay, 100 times the US dollars in circulation. People won't notice that, but a couple million, no one's going to care that much. Dude, the thing about 300 trillion is like it makes money literally worthless, right? Like if we had 300 trillion, if you had that much amount, the actual circulation, like the dynamics of supply and demand completely fall apart. That's kind of wild, bro. They also said Citi sent 81 trillion last year by mistake. So it's not just PayPal. It's like companies have made these mistakes before. This one was just really bad. PayPal 6641. Did PayPal tweet about this? Did they respond? I would wonder what the response would be. Dude, they should make a joke out of it. No, they're tweeting Christmas cards with customer spotlights. Okay, that's fine. They should make a joke out of it. The intern should just go on PayPal's Twitter account and type in NBD. No big deal. Or they should type in my bad. Or oops. Like you gotta make this funny somehow, bro. That's wild. Absolutely freaking wild. Oracle's down 7%. Oracle increased their RPO aggressively, so this one is getting hit regardless of that. And then the S&P is still barely up on the day. Yeah, it is just one of those days up and down across the board. Not really seeing that much of a difference. We shocked the world. Yeah, that's what they got to say. Yeah, look, it's not all PayPal's fault. It's Paxos. I'm not even taking shots at PayPal. I just think it's just crazy for that to even be possible. A $300 trillion mistake. It is absolutely wild to see that happening. Oh boy. Amit, what is a good value dip today? What are people buying? All right, put in the chat. What's a good value dip today? I mean, we talked to Chris yesterday. He is on this Verizon binge. He really thinks Verizon can outperform next year. UNH obviously is one of the names that people think is deep value. PayPal, Salesforce, AT&T, Crown Castle, Vodafone, American Tower. You got a lot of those names that giving you yield that people might be after. I mean, look, I like Amazon, but who knows, bro? Maybe Amazon has a crappy earnings. This thing goes below 200. If it is, I'm not going to cry about it, but no one buying it here should be afraid of below 200. You should be willing to get excited for that, but it could happen. BMNR, SoFi. I do think Tanner's right about SoFi. I think SoFi's going to crush. It's hard for me to imagine SoFi doesn't crush. I just don't know if the macro is going to be good enough. Dude, SoFi's earnings are in 9 days. Do things change in 9 days? Do we get like a reversal of all this sentiment decline and China stuff in 9 days? Maybe. Maybe not. By the way, Perplexity freaking introduced language stuff yesterday, language features, and Duolingo took a hit yesterday. Based on that, so Duolingo continuously getting hit across the board with different companies working on this stuff. Oh, QBTZ should be pumping, right? The quantum short. Yeah, look at that, 16% on the day. It's up basically 37% over the past 2 days. If you got in right when D-Wave was about to start dumping, you're up like 40% in 2 days, which is pretty cool. But that one is green on the day. Duolingo is slightly green. Slightly green on the day. IONQ, that one still is down. SPY below 660 again. Goodness, bro. Yeah, again, the reason it's surprising to me is because we really have not had a day like this where you go green to red, green to red, green to red these many times. I mean, usually I end the market open and we know the trend is green, and maybe something switches it by the market close, but like the trend is green. Or I leave the market open and the trend is red, and it's like, okay, maybe something good happens in the middle of the day, but it ends up being red. And more often than not, over the past 5 months, the trend has been green because we've had a really good run. And it is what it is. But a day like today is just completely up and down, back and forth. K-View's up today. This is the Tylenol. Oh, wow. They're up 8%. Tylenol parent company. I guess people are going long the TISM today. I guess that's what's happening. Yeah, CoreWeave down 147 to 131. Tesla's earnings next week will lift the market. Dude, I don't know if Tesla's earnings are going to do that. I feel like Tesla's earnings are going to be the one that we have to try to survive. Like, Tesla will have an okay earnings because of the deliveries. But again, this is not me saying it. Elon has guided until 3Q26, don't expect growth. For the past 4 quarters, Tesla's had negative growth across the board. I don't know if that changes this quarter. I think it's still going to be pretty ugly. But I don't think it's going to be ugly enough to like tank the market. Realistically, dude, yeah, Tesla's got to do well, but the other 6 are the ones that matter to keep the bull market going. I mean, unless Tesla really surprises to the upside, Amazon, Meta, Google, the ones that are in this AI capex, like that's the stuff that really matters. It's not going to be Tesla. At the end of the day, we already know it just might not be the best. Yeah, and I think Elon is more concerned about the shareholder meeting even more than earnings right now. Now, granted, he might want to give a good earnings. Like, look, the stock down 20% is not going to be fun going into that the shareholder vote. So they might be incentivized to give a really good earnings. But then again, they also can't control it. Like, we know the cars they sold, and it's just not as much as they did last year. 659 on the S&P. BMNR, are we below 48? No, 48.80. 48.80. Yeah, look, Tesla was up last earnings, but then it tanked the day after or the week after. I mean, like, I don't know, dude. I'm just listening to what Elon said. If you go listen to the earnings call again, Elon explicitly said by the second half of next year, we are not going to show growth. So you're just telling people, you got to give us time, which is reasonable, right? Like, I mean, like at the end of the day, you got to give them some time to figure out a lot of what they're doing. Rates will come down by then. That's going to help car sales also. But I wouldn't have the highest expectations for Tessie. Is BMNR buying ETH this weekend? There were some accounts yesterday showing that BMNR probably already bought ETH over the past couple of days. I mean, I would imagine they buy more. basically getting the same price you got last week on Sunday. VG, how's that one doing? 893. Is Next still up 9%? No, lost half of it, up 4%. Growth in Robotaxi. Well, Robotaxi is not going to really show anything. They only unveiled it in Austin. And they didn't charge a lot of money per drive, right? Like they charge like $4.20 per ride. I don't think Robotaxi is going to show anything. I just don't know what there is to be. Outside, energy will grow, but energy doesn't contribute that much to the bottom line. So I don't know. But I think the other hyperscalers really are going to matter. Amazon right here, 212. That one's down 1%. Tom Lee tweeted about Ethereum. He says this is very constructive for ETH. He's quoting a chart that says at this point, only levered ETH positions are the shorts. I mean, like, yeah, that's true. If you're super levered ETH short, unless ETH has a massive move down, we're talking about, 32, 3,300. Should be hopefully a sign of somewhat of a bottom, but I guess we're going to have to see. Okay, let's get some coverage right here. We got Bessent update on him speaking with China today.
Talking about for the last couple hours.
Yeah, I mean, this could be a major breakthrough in these discussions between U.S. and China on their trade talks. Learning today, as CNBC did, that Bessent is going to speak with his Chinese counterpart, Vice Premier He Lifeng, on the phone today. Again, this could represent a breakthrough after we've seen some tension between the back and forth over the rare earths. Of course, Trump saying last week, threatening that 100% increase in tariffs. Now, we don't know exactly when this call is going to take place, nor do we know exactly what the topic is going to be, but it's certainly a step forward because Bessent wouldn't say earlier this week whether he would speak with his Chinese counterpart. So that really does make the fact that this call is going to happen notable. We'll be keeping an ear out for any sort of readout from that call or next steps when it comes to these negotiations. Guys?
So what are the potential next steps? We haven't heard any. I mean, it does seem like the Xi-Trump meeting is scheduled on the calendar, and it feels like they want to keep that.
Sarah, we haven't really heard anything, at least for a while. Otherwise, I know Trump for a moment floated the idea that might not happen, but then it seemed like there was pretty quickly a pivot back to saying that meeting was still going to be in place. As far as we know, it's still on. I mean, I think it's reasonable to kind of view anything in the lead up to that conversation as setting the stage, laying the groundwork for a potential agreement to come out of that meeting. We know that this is certainly not the first time that Bessent and his Chinese counterpart have met. We know that they met earlier this year, they've been a part of these conversations. But at this point, I think we're waiting to see exactly what's going to come and if there's going to be some sort of resolution here when it comes to rare earths, as well as other aspects of this trade negotiation.
Thank you very much, Emily Wilkins. I think the other takeaway this meeting.
All right, that's what we got. That is what we got for today. Looks like China Bessent will have that meeting. Hopefully we get something constructive from that. Stocks are flat. I mean, you're not getting a trend one way or the other. So when we get back on the market close, we'll kind of see how this ends up looking like. But that's what we got. I think the summary of this here is regional banking stuff, not that big of an issue. China stuff is an issue, and Trump saying that, they're going to get rid of the 100% tariff thing this morning made things not as bad as it was at 2 a.m. Bessent China discussion, hopefully much more optimistic for the markets if we get some good news from that. And then finally, I would say this is October volatility on a Friday where you got options expiring and the market's really exhausted. And a lot of these names that are either going flat or slightly green is just endemic of the idea that markets are tired and they might want to take a breather. And I think that's what we got. Now, some of the more hardcore names like a BMNR are not flat because ETH is getting hit. But then you have an AMD, which look, 1% is not flat, but I mean, it's 1%, right? After a 40% run, you can't get too upset about that. So I think that's what we got. I think that is what we've got for today. And we'll be back at 3:45 to see what we got going on. Andy, thanks for the super chat. Keep draining the threes, bro. Shout out to the chat. Andy, thank you for the super chat. And thank you for being here as well. Matt, thanks for the $10 super chat. VIX index was below 23, 77% of the days. This might be good to buy puts on the VIX. Yeah, I mean, look, it's worked out if you bought it at when it was 25. Right now, yeah, 23.60. I mean, it is down 6% on the day. If that one continues to go down, puts on the VIX would not be bad. But if this kind of normalizes at this level above 20, might not be the best opportunity right here. So we're going to have to see as we get towards the end of the day. All right, there you go. That's what we got. You know, to be honest, might just not be worth looking at the portfolio today, keeping up with the markets. It looks like it's going to be flat throughout the rest of the day. We'll be back on the close. We'll have Steve come on. We'll see what is going on across the board. But as of now, it's just not much that we can really get that deep into. And we're just not getting the price action to kind of resemble that either. Why are we selling off so much? Well, we're not actually. I mean, again, the S&P right there is flat. At 4 a.m., we were selling off a lot, and I still don't have an answer for that. But Trump calmed everyone down with the China comment, so I guess China was the reason. But you know, now we're just kind of staying where we are right here. Benny says, honestly, not a bad day at all. Zoom out, been cooking for a long time. Yeah, and I mean, look, I don't mean to be gloomy here, but like, obviously, it sucks for everybody not seeing the recovery that we saw on. Remember, we were at 670 on Monday on the S&P. We were recovering a lot of that Friday stuff, and then kind of just went the opposite direction. However, the bright side of all of this is that it is really healthy to see a lot of the nonsense that was running over the past couple of weeks like get flushed out. Unfortunately, everything else has to get flushed out with it. Those stocks are getting like, you know, if Amazon's down 3%, you got a quantum name that's down 15%. So that stuff just has to happen. And hopefully it makes the markets a bit healthier, dude. I think all of us were feeling uneasy over the past couple of weeks with the meme stock ETF and, you know, 5x leverage ETFs that are being introduced to the market. Massive call volume on days where, you know, you probably shouldn't be getting people buying that many calls. Like, in general, getting a breather, as much as it hurts the portfolio short term, is just short-term pain for long-term gain, which is probably the best way to kind of navigate it. All right, that's it. That is it for me. We'll be back on the close. We'll see what we've got going on. Real quick, first of all, I just want to thank everybody for subscribing to the Substack. The first 2 deep dives will be out today. The first 2 deep dives will be out today. I don't even know how Substack works, but they have these ranks and these categories, and we're number 1 in the new bestseller on Substack, and we're number 2 in business, which, I mean, it's I didn't even know Substack does something like that. So I'm very, very humbled for the people that are subscribing to it, and it means a lot. So I'll put the link right here in the chat for those that want to subscribe. And it's free. There's no paywall. A bunch of you guys have pledged like a donation per year, and I deeply appreciate that. That is not required. None of the content will ever need money to be able to access the research. So if you want to subscribe, you can subscribe. It'll probably be out around like 7 p.m. tonight, 2 deep dives. And we'll be doing a lot more deep dives every single month. But I am enjoying the process. I mean, it's taken me a month to write these 2 deep dives, and the written research is not easy, but it really does feel fun. Like when you put everything together and then put it out into one thing. Like, it's just something you can feel a little bit proud of, just like, you know, saying I wrote this and it's there, and like, you know, people can then read it. And Substack is a platform where people legit read. So, you know, people are actually reading every word. It's different than audio and video. And so, yeah, I do think it's pretty cool. Is Trump live right now? There's no way Trump is live, bro. There's no freaking way Trump is live. Hold on. Is he actually live? What? Is he legit live? I think he's live. I'm not getting the feed of it, though. Content in chief. That is correct. Hold on. Let me see if there's a different one. Wait, he's live? Is he having a cabinet meeting today? Hold on. Dude, I don't see the feed, and the business channels aren't covering it. So where would he be live at? The White House is not live either. President Trump address. Is this it? Some of these feeds are playing old live streams. Is this one a real 11:30? He'll be 11:30. Oh, Zelensky meeting today. I forgot. Oh shit, I forgot. You're right. Oh boy. All right. Well, we'll see what happens with that. Yeah. Okay. So he will be live. It's probably not going to happen at 11:30. All right. We'll cover that on the close. But yeah, we'll get Zelensky. That'll be in 20 minutes. All right. Yeah, we'll cover that on the close, and we'll see what happens from there. So we'll see what we've got going on. All right. Yeah. Strap in on that one. That's going to be again. Trump said that he had a conversation with Putin yesterday, and he was joking about sending Putin Tomahawk missiles and all this stuff. And so, I mean, we're going to see what the tone is in the context of Zelensky. This is the clip from yesterday when Trump was talking about this.
Putin tried to dissuade you from selling Tomahawk missiles.
Well, of course. What do you think he's going to say? Please sell Tomahawks? Is he going to say, please sell those Tomahawks? I really appreciate it. I did actually say, would you mind if I gave a couple of thousand Tomahawks to your opposition? I did say that to him. I said it just that way. He didn't like the idea. He really didn't like the idea. No, I said it that way. You have to be a little bit lighthearted sometimes, but no, he doesn't want Tomahawk. Tomahawk is a vicious weapon. It's a vicious, offensive, incredibly destructive weapon. Nobody wants Tomahawk.
So, I mean, based on that tone with the meeting with Putin yesterday, I wonder what they're going to say with Zelensky. But we'll cover that on the market close and see what we got going on there. All right, that's it for me. Thank you, everybody. Again, if you want to subscribe to the Substack, 2 deep dives will be out to start off the Substack journey later tonight. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Deeply appreciate it. I will be back on the market open. Hopefully, we stay flat to end out the day, and then we'll kind of see how this turns out as we get to the end of the day. Word of the day, you're right. We forgot that. How do you say this word, bro? What is this? Word of the day. SM plastic.
SM plastic.
Okay. That was kind of an easy word, but capable of shaping diverse elements or concepts into a unified whole. I have never heard anyone who's ever used this word before, bro. SM plastic. Capable of shaping diverse elements or concepts into I think it's basically saying you're trying to piece together different elements of a concept and bring it all into one story. But I've never heard of this word being described to use that. Yeah, I guess I try to be SM plastic every market open, market close, but then Trump tweets something and it's hard to bring all the concepts together into a unified story because there's nothing unified about it when he says something. So it's hard to do that every single day. All right, that's it. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. I'll see you guys on the market close. Bye, everybody. Have a good one.